Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the continuation of the NXTGEN Racing PROTO GT3 Championship Season 2, as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And today marks round 3 of 10, as the story continues. Our drivers charge on in what has proven to be an absolutely thrilling championship so far, with our LMP2, our LMDH and GT3 drivers making the way across the globe little by little. We have seen plenty of battles from the outset, and last time out at the Hockenheim Ring in Germany, there were no surprises there when we saw at the very tight and twisty circuit. It was all about finding the right time to pounce, and when they did not get it right, well, there's plenty of battling moments and also instants in between. But as we make our way from a very tight and twisty German circuit over to the United Kingdom, we are here at the heart of British motorsport, of course, at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, as it sets the scene with the clouds coming on over, albeit there's no rain in the forecast, of course, on iRacing, but with the clouds coming on over, this is a circuit like no other when it comes to high-speed, high-intensity racing, with plenty of corners and wide open spaces in between and on corner apex as well. Overtakes are common throughout the entire lap, and on top of that as well, with the aim of the game being to use the downforce of the car to carry as much speed from corner to corner as possible. This is going to be all about confidence and our drivers' abilities being put to the ultimate test. But as we're getting ready to go racing tonight, let's take you through our schedule. Times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinated Time at UTC. In just under 14 minutes time, we'll be heading into our qualifying session, 25 minutes in duration, and we'll see our drivers make their way out into the circuit in their scheduled groups to set their perfect possible lap times that they can in order to get themselves set as high as possible on the grid. We'll then make our way to the grid for our first race of the day, and that will be the sprint race, of course, at 25 past 8, and that will be 20 minutes in duration, where all our drivers will have no pit stops on the cards. It will about be running to the finish from start to finish, all the way on the optimum pace, and trying to deliver the best possible result and overtake their way up to the lead of the class. And then we'll be taking a brief breather before returning at approximately 5 past 9 this evening for the build up to the feature race, and that will be 60 minutes in duration. And there we'll see, of course, the reversal of the grid, and it will all be about the strategy. Indeed, strategy could play a key part, as we've been hearing from some of our drivers down in the paddock in the build up to tonight, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that in due course. But as we get ready to go, we'd just like to remind you this broadcast is being brought to you live via free media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, you can tune in via the official NXTGEN Racing YouTube channel. If you go to youtube.com and search for NXTGEN Racing, you can tune in there. Secondly, if you're a Facebook user, you can go to facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing and tune in on Facebook. Alternatively, last but not least, if you're more Twitch inclined, you can go to twitch.tv/TX141 and tune in on Twitch. Now, who is TX141? Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I will bring you all of your racing action over the course of this season in the commentary booth. But as our drivers get themselves set, let's take you through the season so far and what we still have lying in wait. So we can see after our first 2 rounds, we started off back on the 18th of January at the Fuji International Speedway circuit, and there in Japan with the opening sprint and feature combination round. It was all about the run down the start-finish straight and the battles in the fast-flying medium-speed corners. It got tight and it got personal in the latter sector of the circuit, and it really set the tone that carried over to Germany last time out on the 25th of January, and there we saw at the Hockenheim Ring, Württemberg circuit, there was all about track position being key in the latter half of the lap, and making those overtakes into the Spitzer hairpin. But it's going to be very different today on the 1st of February for here in the United Kingdom. As we said previously, this is a circuit which is going to encourage, we should say, overtaking by the dozen from corner to corner, and we can expect plenty of battles over the entirety of the lap. And indeed, the traffic situation with regards to our different classes intersecting may not be as prevalent as perhaps it has been in the opening 2 rounds. But after today, we'll be making our way to the United States of America, across the Atlantic Ocean, to the Road America circuit in the state of Wisconsin for our first endurance round of the season. That'll be on the 8th of February, and there we can expect plenty of changes in the tempo as the race becomes longer, 2 hours in length. There's no qualifying session, and therefore our drivers will have to optimise their strategy to make their way through the field and take victory. And then we'll be making our way over to Belgium for the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps on the 15th of February there, and return to our sprint and feature format. The story continues there, back to the United States on the 22nd of February at the state of Indiana at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway circuit, and there at the Brickyard we'll be wrapping up another run of sprint and feature race rounds before making our way over to France for the Le Mans circuit. And there in France, of course, we'll have our second endurance round, and what better circuit to have it at than the classic French circuit, also known as the Circuit de la Sarthe, for the simple reason it is the ultimate test of man and machine. That'll be on the 1st of March, and then we begin to make our way into the final third of the season, if you will, on the 8th of March with a Monza race at the sprint and feature races in Italy, and then we make our way over to Magny-Cours, once again making our way back to France for the circuit recently introduced to iRacing. We're going from the Temple of Speed, where we have the highest average lap speed, going to a circuit which is very tight, technical, difficult and complex, and therefore we've seen lower average lap speeds, but in return plenty of battling into the unique corner sequences of mainly caught on the 15th of March, and then we bring it all to a close back in the United States of America in our third and final visit to the United States in the state of Florida with our final endurance round there on the 22nd of March. It'll be at the Daytona Road course, and well, of course, Daytona needs no introduction. But speaking of introducing more things, of course, well, let's come on to our championship standings going into this round. So after 2 rounds, we start off our Drivers' Championships with respect to the LMDH Gold class, or the Hypercar Gold class. And we can see here that after 2 rounds, Chris Daines has finally emerged the leader of the class, albeit only by 3 points over Benjamin McCluskey. Again, the margins are incredibly tight between the 2 drivers, but Daines has found his way ahead and will look to continue to do so today as the story presses on. Albeit with such a gap of separation there, it could go either way as time progresses. Behind him in P3, Jamie Dory, recently promoted, of course, to the Gold class from the Silver class where he started in the season opener. Jamie Dory continues to hold on to P3, 5 points clear of Gaz Williams there, or Gareth Williams as he's known in full, but the 2 next-gen racing drivers will be looking to work together as much as possible, as well as fighting one another in order to get a shot of the top 2. Outside the top 4, Craig Jones there, the SCCR driver on 56 points, continuing to have that good run of form, picking up 28 points last time out and looking to try and further that tonight. He completes the top 5, 3 points clear of Magna Yonlund, with Rafael DeSantis and William Foyle completing at the standings. We then come on to the LMDH Silver class meanwhile, and we can see here that Paul Williams leads the way in the Silver class by 17 points over Callum Jenkins. It has been Williams' consistency that has boded very well so far over the opening 2 rounds. He's been touchable on pace, but he's been untouchable when it comes to putting the laps left, right and centre, and we can expect plenty more of that today. But Callum Jenkins finding a good run of form, and you can see only a further point behind. You can imagine how the tables may be turning if Williams is not able to have that run of form that he would so crave. In P4, David Harney there on 39 points, only ahead of Mark Baker based on result countback. Those 2 will continue to go at it today, with Jason Ashfield and Wayne Douglas yet to put points on the board. We then come on to the LMP2 class to wrap up, of course, our prototype cars, if you will, and we can see here in the rather depleted class compared in terms of numbers, but by no means the least class in terms of the intensity of the race in action. Kevin Stringer rounding in the lead at the moment on 80 points, 5 clear of Nigel Stock, and Stringer continues to have this run of form whereby he has a difficult sprint and not quite able to bring home the win in the sprint, but is able to bring home the win in the feature, and he'll be hoping for a perfect evening tonight, 2 wins back to back to enable him to start to expand that championship lead. Meanwhile, Nigel Stock has jumped ahead of Mark Sykes by 2 points there into P2, with Nigel Stock having the better running results compared to Sykes, but the 2 of them will know they need to try and fight their way through to bring down Kevin Stringer and keep him well within arm's reach. We have Barry Jarman and David Maggioni there, yet to put points on the board. We then come on to our GT3 Gold class, and we can see here, starting off with the Premier Gold class in what is the GT3s. It is Ryan Walcott on 69 points, that only 2 clear of Johan Ersson. He continues to lead the championship, albeit mixed fortunes for Walker last time out do mean that right now his championship lead is looking vulnerable, and it's all about the drivers behind looking to exploit that today. Adding to the fact as well, as we're to understand it, that Ryan Walker will not be joining us on the grid today, given the fact he's not feeling too well, and we do send him all of our best regards, and we hope he does feel better soon. So this is going to be a grand opportunity for many a driver to put one over Walker. Will it be Ersson then in P2, or will it be Frederick Duray at 1 point behind in P3 there for the Team Slow-Mo Leftovers outfit, or will it be Eric Benson at a further 11 points behind? Well, right now Ersson and Duray do seem to be right in the hunt of one another in terms of that P2 position and also the championship lead, but let's not count out the likes of Eric Benson in P4, only 1 point clear of Magnus Fullerton-Bekirker in P5, in the fact that these 2 have been battling hard all season so far, and Russell Fowler there in P6 would also add his name into that mix with only 3 points between him and Bekeke in P5. Then in P10, only Martin Muirk there on a difficult day at last time out at the Hockenheim ring, 6 points clear of Digan Fairclough, and Digan Fairclough, one of 2 names that emerged onto the scene last time out, joining us as of round number 2 and really making himself felt there with an absolutely storming set of performances in both races, albeit a major incident in the sprint race costing him dear, but in the feature race turning things around and bringing home the win by a considerable margin. Fairclough does seem to be the driver that everyone needs to watch out for. On 38 points, he's 5 clear of Espresso Rien, who has been dropped to the silver class as of this round, and we'll give you an update on all the class shifts very shortly. And then Stefan Vessels there completes the top 10, unable to attend for the sprint race, but we're hoping to see him in the feature, and you can see him there in the YouTube chat. Outside the top 10, Liam McNeely, the Team Fordzilla privateer, who joined us for the sprint race, wasn't able to make it to the features. We're to understand it. Well, Liam McNeely there on 19 points, matching the pace of Dean Fairclough, but not having the run of form that perhaps Fairclough had over the course of the evening last time out. And then John Higgins Jr. and Gavin Guy Garner completing the championship standings. Gavin Garner joined us as of tonight and running in the gold class. We then come on to the GT3 silver class, and we can see here, well, they've got hearts of gold, but they're running as silvers, and Tom Bingham on 75 points. Only Wood is there, 11 clear of Ben Bennyworth, and Bingham the driver right now who everybody wants to beat. But again, much like in the season opener, Bingham putting together a great run of form and bringing home that win in the feature race, boding him very well going into tonight. Ben Bennyworth, meanwhile, right on his heels there on 64 points, but not quite able to take the final steps to dethrone Bingham, and he's going to look to try and close that gap up because he's only got a 4-point advantage over Stefan Albanese, who left quite a bit on the table last time out in Germany, and you can imagine that the Italian stallion will be looking to try and do everything he can to get back into P2, but he'll have close competition from Jack Barker. Unfortunately, will not be attending tonight due to personal circumstances, but he may be tuning. Do say hi to him in the YouTube chat if you see him there, and we also see Paul Scott there on 56 points, only behind based on result countback versus Barker, and it'll be Paul Scott who will try and take the initiative. Ollie Wayne will try and do the same there, 1 point off in P6, and then we do have a gap of 30 points to Matthew Addy in P7, who joined us as of last round, with Mark Arrowsmith, Aaron Razy, Brandon Hay, and then that completes the standings, but Mark Arrowsmith have only 8 points so far, and Aaron Racy and Brandon Hay yet to compete in the series. We then come on to the GT3 bronze class, and we can see here that Baz Meacham leads the way going into tonight, but he won't be leading the way for much longer as he has been promoted to the GT3 silver class, and again we'll give you a full recap of all the promotions and demotions going into this round very shortly. With Meacham now on 72 points, it'll shortly fall to Jordan Baywa to be able to try and bring home that bronze crown, albeit there's a long way to go in the championship campaign, but he is in fact now the de facto leader of the class by only 1 point over Elwyn Sykes. Eric Sylvester there, only a further 2 points behind in P4, and you can see that right now the top three are looking very close. That effective top three when we discount Baz Meacham for the top of the standings, with Ingar Elmclov there in P5, not too far behind. Then we have Daniel Stimman in at P6 on 37 points. Not even the run of luck that he wanted last time out of Germany, and he'll be looking for greater fortune today, and we wish him all the best, of course, much like all of our drivers, with Jorge Santos down 27 points, 10 further behind, and then Sean Scudder and Artie Chatzacontinentu are completing at the championship standings. Now we come on to the teams championship, last but not least, of course, and we can see here that after 2 rounds, it's Speed9 Esports that lead the way there on 149 points, continue to bring home those brilliant sets of results ahead of Next Gen Racing Orange by 10 points, and then Next Gen Racing Purple a further 3 behind. They're only ahead of SCCR Sim Sports based on result countback, with Team Slimer there completing the top 5 a further 3 off. And then there is a gap of what is there 19 points to Team Slow-Mo Black ahead of Team Slow-Mo Leftovers, with the 2 sister Slow-Mo outfits there working together to try and stay in sight of the top 5. We then do have DRS Esport in P8 on 97 points, 5 clear of Racing Team Astra, with Verana Motorsport there completing the top 10 on 78 points, holding a reasonable gap there of 27 points over Performance Link Esports, with Rossum's Universal Robots bringing up the rear in P12. But as we come onto our circuit for today, well, of course, as we said earlier, it's the Silverstone circuit, the Grand Prix circuit, located near the town of Silverstone in Northamptonshire of England, the United Kingdom. And well, this circuit map here is two-dimensional, as provided by simracingwiki.com, and well, we can point out to you that this circuit will feel very two-dimensional. This is a circuit that does not have a significant amount of elevation change, and that's for the simple reason that this circuit was erected on the site of a disused Royal Air Force airfield consisting of 3 runways, and therefore the circuit was built around the idea of the 3 runways of which the planes would take off of, and therefore there's not too much in terms of elevation changes. But having been resurfaced and reformatted over the course of extended history, this circuit has now turned into one of the premier racing circuits around the world, not just in the United Kingdom. Consisting of a grand total of 18 corners. As our drivers charge their way down the start-finish straight into turn 1 at Abbey, it'll be a flat-out run through the right-hander before they make the way through the Kink of Farm curve at turn number 2 and brake hard into turn 3 at Village. There, while the slowest corners, it'll open up into an even slower corner of the loop at turn number 4, but as they exit the loop hairpin, they'll power their way through Aintree flat-out and make their way down the Wellington Straight. We'll see our drivers battle under trail braking into turn 6 at Brooklands, when they'll come into left-right sequence that complete with a Luffield corner, and then it's all about get back on the power as soon as possible, back to full throttle for the charge for Woodcourt on the old start-finish straight at turn number 8, before charging away into Cops Corner at turn number 9. There'll be a lift, shift and brake into the right-hander, very tricky right-hander to go too wide in the best of the times, but as long as they survive it, they'll make their way up towards turn number 10 and roll their way through Maggots into Beckett's at 10, 11 through to 13. There, the serpentine sequence of corners, we'll see our drivers break out through Chapel at turn 14 and onto the back straight known as the Hanger Straight before making their way into Stowe Corner. Arguably one of the fastest corners on the circuit, if we're not to include Cops in that evaluation. Our drivers will come charging through Stowe and down the Vale into turns 16 and 17 through the chicane before making their way through Club Corner to do it all again, and well, it's definitely going to be a thriller of the lap, as you're going to see when we ride on board with some of our drivers in qualifying. Now, as for our rules, a quick recap of the rules. This is a fixed setup series, of course, with setups provided ahead of each round. Driver class wise, driver classes have been based on pre-season evaluation. They continue to be updated, of course, and shall be finalised by round 3. So after today, we should see the driver classes finalised, unless by exception. And in terms of qualifying, an open qualifying format shall be used as split into 2 equal halves. The first 12 minutes shall be dedicated to the GT3 class, and the final 12 minutes shall be dedicated to the Proto classes, i.e. the LMDH Gold and Silvers, and also the ML2s. On top of that as well, in terms of our races, the sprint race shall commence via a rolling start with a designated green flag zone, and that green flag zone is coming out of the final corner at club and onto the start-finish straight. Drivers shall have 1 fast repair available. A driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 15 or more instant points. And meanwhile, in the feature race, the race again shall commence via a rolling start. Drivers shall have 2 fast repairs available. And in terms of the grid order, we'll see it as a class reverse grid. So we'll see the LMDHs starting ahead of what is the LMP2s, ahead of the GT3s. And this will be based on results of the sprint race. And drivers who did not finish the sprint shall start from the back of their respective class, out of fairness, of course, those who competed and finished the sprint race. A driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 25 or more instant points, and drivers are expected to make 1 mandatory pit stop in which fuel must be taken. Changing tyres, however, is entirely optional, although I do wonder whether some of our drivers will opt to change tyres, given that tyre degradation here at Silverstone can be quite aggressive, particularly on the left-hand side tyres where there have been so many fast right-handers. That's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. We return to our live pictures then, ladies and gentlemen, as our drivers get ready to go racing. And in fact, the practice session has just concluded. And as we do clear the screen here, open circuit, and now our drivers get set to go. Well, it is time for qualifying, and we do have a grand total of what is 25 minutes as split into those 2 equal sessions. And it is time for our GT3 drivers to firstly make their way out of the circuit. They'll roar them through and get themselves set for what is expected to be a very tricky qualifying session. But as we do, say hello to a good number of you there in the YouTube chat, and don't be shy, feel free to say hi regardless of which chat you're in. We can see all 3 chats, whether it be YouTube, Twitch, alternatively Facebook. We say hello there to Stefan Vessels in the YouTube chat, and also to King Sim Racing, who says there, hey guys, good luck tonight everyone, and well, welcome to King Sim Racing. We also say hello there to Jack Barker in the Sir Bottle Job username, and I hope you're doing well there, Jack. Sam raises his head above the fence, indeed watching from the grandstands today. And we also say hello to Elwin Sykes in the YouTube chat there, and well, thank you very much, Elwin, for the happy birthday wishes. I did turn 30 as of this Sunday, just gone, ladies and gentlemen, and well, I can tell you one thing, I may be getting a little bit older, but the racing never gets old, and it always makes me feel youthful at heart. But as we do see there, what is Elwin saying, good luck to all, and may it be good, clean and fun racing. We also say hello there to Jorge Santos, who clarifies not racing this evening. But I hope you're doing well, Jorge, all the same. And as our drivers continue to make their way around here in the GT3 class on their initial warm-up lap, what does it take to have a good qualifying lap here at Silverstone? Well, sure, it requires you to have ultimate commitment. This is a circuit, as we said earlier, it's a confidence test first and foremost. The key thing about this circuit is not particular corners, it's about your ability to be back on the throttle as soon as possible and carry as much speed into those corner apexes and beyond them. You have a whole variety of corners here that really do set up the next sequence, and therefore if you lose a good amount of speed in one corner, you're going to lose a lot of speed over the course of the entirety of the lap. But that's where the confidence aspect comes in, because you need to be able to carry that speed from every corner, and that sets up the lap nicely. Now, corners that include that will be the likes of Maggotts into Beckett's. Also here, as we do see Stefan Albanese coming on through turn at number 15 and heading on down the vale now and up towards 16 and 17. These 2 corners here in the chicane sequence, less important in terms of that overall average speed, but you still want to clear these as quickly as possible. But also we do have to run through the opening corners to consider as Albanese makes his way through at turn number 18 at club and gets himself onto his first flying lap. Now, the other thing as well is you need to set yourself up in this qualifying session. This is a session where you need to build yourself up gradually. As we see there's somebody into the wall in the rear of the picture. One of our gold drivers getting it wrong, one of our slow-mo drivers getting it wrong. And well, it's not right here as we see Frederick Stensvold making his way through turn 16, 17 and up towards 18. He goes, and we're trying to get clarity as to who that was who exactly had the whack to the wall, but we have not had that data come into us as of yet. But it's so easy to get it wrong here. It's a relatively cool day at the Silverstone circuit as well, and in fact, as we do bring up the weather on screen for you, can see here that currently it is an ambient temperature of 19 degrees centigrade and a track temperature of 21 degrees centigrade, with overcast conditions going to be prevalent throughout qualifying, at least if not in the race as well. And what that means is that track temperature will not come up aggressively, it will come up very gradually as our drivers turn the laps around here, and that will have a major effect in terms of how this qualifying session plays out, because when our drivers do get that tyre temperature, the car will already start to grip up on circuit, and we can see some absolutely phenomenal lap times Conversely, however, they can't find that temperature in the tyres, then they may just struggle to be able to deliver it. But as we do see here, Daines making his way on down, and well, we also look there to what is a little bit further around the field. Newcomer for today, and that is Adam Delmont here in the Castrol Livery Privateer Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. And well, Adam Delmont being placed into the GT3 Gold class for his opening participation in the season, and good luck to him, of course. Joining us, having competed in a good number of next-gen racing series in the past, most prominently including was the MX5 Cup Series and also the NXTGEN, or the Touring Car Championship. He's going to be turning his hand at GT3s and taking it up a class in terms of the speed and pace of the car, plus also the aerodynamics of the car. I'm sure he's not going to shy away from the challenge presented to him. As he comes running through Maggotts into Beckett's there. Well, in terms of other newcomers for today, we do have some more to consider, and well, I do believe that Delmont is the only one currently who we actually do need to address, unless I'm very much mistaken. But we are likely to also see Liam Silverstone join us at some point. We have been informed, as we do get there a quick refresh of our overlay just to confirm all our drivers' details. But what about also, we do have in the GT3 Gold class potentially Seb Hopkins join us, as we're to understand it, albeit we can't quite see them out on circuit currently. Now, we have had some class changes as well, and all the class changes today are in the GT3 class. We can see here Gavin Gardner. He was originally slated to be in the GT3 Silver class, but given the pace he's shown already, I think his promotion to Gold class out of the box has definitely come with him quite nicely, as we see the Rano Motorsport driver here making his way through Aintree at turn number 5 and making his way on down the Wellington Straight and up towards turn 6. But as he gets ready to go there, well, there's one thing you can take for granted with Gavin Gardner. If you want to know which car he's in, and the Verano livery does not give it away enough, just look to the wheel rims. He always runs those fluorescent pink wheel rims, and I think he might be doing that there to get a little bit of attention of the car, make sure that he stands out compared to the rest, but we love him for it there, and it does indeed make him really glow high. I think some of you right now might be a little bit aghast with regards to the colours on the wheels, but either way, depending on your personal opinion, you can say that Gardner right now proud to stand out, and right now stands out indeed as he's currently P2 in the GT3 Gold class, albeit we've got a lot of lap times yet to come on in from our drivers. But it's not just about Gavin Gardner, we also do have Espresso Rien here for Team Slomo, who has moved from GT3 Gold to GT3 Silver, so he's going to be mixing up in amongst the mid-tier of the GT3 class drivers, and it is a little bit insulting, some would argue, to be able to say that Silver is mid-tier, and when we do say, of course, that's just in terms of Gold, Silver and Bronze, but everyone absolutely giving their hearts out whatsoever and not judged in terms of their class at all. Indeed, everybody right now gunning for Gold with regards to their pole laps, there's no question about it. And also we do have what is the class shift of our Bronze Championship leader going into tonight, but now he is your Silver driver here, and it is Baz Meacham as he makes his way down the Vale into turn 16 and 17, and will absolutely storming ahead of the field in the Bronze class, and right now turning his talents to the Silver class, and all those talents have been founded very well as the BMW M4 driver here makes his way onto another lap, and we jump on board. So heading down towards turn number 1 and getting set up for the first corner, makes his way into the right-hander in 5th gear, drops to 4th in fact, just a lift and downshift as he now heads into turn number 2 through the left and gets ready to brake into turn 3. Braking there at 75 metres, coming all the way down the gearbox to 2nd gear, holding an apex speed of 52 miles an hour before powering out and up into the loop, and here going for quite a nice late apex here to get back on the power early and power out from 1st gear, now all the way through Aintree at turn number 5 and flat out in the charge down the Wellington Straight. A good start to his lap, a smooth start, and now he's got to carry that through as he gets ready to brake into turn number 6. Looks to his right hand side here and 5th gear and braking at the 50 metre ball. They're about 55 metres from corner apex, trailing down to 2nd gear, and as he comes off the brake, goes a little bit wider corner apex there, but sets himself up very nicely for Luffield at turn number 7 as he keeps it tight to the apex, uses the cut on the bump of the road there to settle the car as he now makes his way out to turn 7. Powers through Woodcock corner at turn number 8, cutting as much as possible over to the right, up to 5th gear he goes, and now gets ready for the right-hander at turn number 9. Into Cops he goes, and there taking a little bit of a break down to 4th gear as he makes his way through turn number 9 and gets back on the power as soon as possible. And then up towards turn number 10, and now this is where it's going to be the fast direction change sequence of Maggotts into Beckett's. Into 10 he goes flat out, now onto the brakes for 11, drops to 4th gear, brings the car into the middle, over to left here to hit the apex at turn number 12, and then bringing the car down to 3rd gear, collecting the apex nice and early as he comes through 13, coming out of Chapel at 14, and flat out now in the run all the way up to turn number 15 here, continuing to charge up through the gearbox, up to 5th gear. Of course, this BMW being wound to 5th gear, not ready to 6th. As he gets ready to brake, he'll be braking at about 75 metres from corner apex into turn 15 Bing, dropping down to third gear and out of the corner and heading down the valve now into turn 16 and 17. Only 3 corners between him and setting the lap time as he breaks there at the 100 metre board down to second. 53 miles an hour at the apex into turn at number 17 goes, holding second gear, letting the car run out, building up through the throttle, flat out now as he heads to the end of the lap through club corner. It's a nice lap there for Meacham. What's it going to be in terms of improvement? If he does improve, well, it does not look to be an improvement there from the GT3 Silver driver, but I can tell you one thing, it was a smooth, it was a fast lap, and he'll be looking to find a bit more there as he's currently 3.5 tenths down off of Stefan Albanese. And well, you can see here the Audi R8 driver, the LMS Audi of course, looking strong. And when I had the opportunity to catch up with Stefan in the build-up to tonight, he did just have a little bit of insight to offer me with regards to his mindset going into this round, and he was saying to me that he feels as though this round it's going to be hard to recover the lost points from Hockenheim, but at the same time he's going to give it his best, and he does feel as though that whilst everybody is fast and the track is so cold, it's not going to help the tyres for anyone, but that may just give him a little bit of an advantage there. But definitely conscious of the fact a cold circuit means you've got to work incredibly hard to get those tyres warm. Of course, work them too hard, you may overheat them, and you take a lot of life out of the tyre well before that life is needing to be used under race conditions. But Albanese 9 is going to be a challenge today, there's no question about it, as he makes his way out to turn number 7 into a corner turn at number 8 and come up roaring on through. But meanwhile, we do look from our silver driver to Daniel Stimon here in what is the GT3 bronze Mercedes. He makes his way on through there for Rossum's Robots, and as he comes on down towards turn number 6 right now, getting himself set up here. And the Mercedes may not be the most ideal car for the Silverstone circuit. The front engine rear-wheel drive German machinery with the 6.2 litre V8. Very understeer heavy in terms of that front end through these medium and low speed corners. It'll do quite nicely on the higher speed sections, albeit then again you do have to turn in quite early and bleed off a bit of speed going into like to turn number 9 that's coming up. For the simple reason you want that front end to bite into the corner, but then again the Mercedes is quite a stable platform. The only thing is at very low speed it can also be prone to quite a bit of on power oversteer. It is one of those cars where you really need to get it all together as he goes very wide. Then we see somebody drifting completely off the circuit. Well, we're trying to understand who that is. Unfortunately, we have not had that car on our data, but we can tell you there's somebody getting completely wrong at turn number 9 and sliding wide, and that's not the way you want it to go, not at all. But meanwhile, as we see Stimon making his way through Maggots into Beckett's here, we're currently P4 in class, only 4 bronze stripes at times on the board. I believe we may only have 4 GT3 bronze stripes in attendance today, so we've got quite a limited group, but all the same here, all trying to get themselves set. Mercedes driver here, 7.5 tenths off of the fastest time as set by Georgian Bewa on a 2:08.825. And we can see there the gulf in terms of the pole times between GT3 Gold, GT3 Silver and GT3 Bronze, while GT3 Gold provisional pole sitter of Benson currently sitting on a 59.632, effectively 1.2 seconds faster than the fastest time in the Bronze class. But again, that goes to show you the relative pace levels of the different classes and why they're arranged so. But as we see it, Daniel Stimon making his way to the timeline here, coming on through. Is it going to be an improvement this time around? Does not look as though it's going to be. And so he'll get himself set up again, as meanwhile making his way on through just behind. That is Ole Martin Muir, and will right now currently P8 and not the fastest man in terms of the lap time at the moment. Far from it. He's 1.7 seconds off of Benson's time. He is trying to improve out there, but there are a few lap invalidations which have prevented him from really getting that lap time together. And well, that's the key thing as well at Silverstone. There's a lot of track limits for invalidating laps in qualifying, and once you've got a lot of runoff area with it, you can't abuse that runoff area too much for the simple reason it will be considered to be outside the bounds of those track limits, and therefore the automated iRacing stewarding system will penalise our drivers for it. But as we see him making his way through turn 6 into 7, going to have a bit of dirty air off of Stimon's Mercedes in front. You can see the front end just creeping out a little bit there, but he brings it back to a nice V-shape approach, coming through turn number 7, up towards Woodcourt. He goes, and as he powers his way on through and getting ready to go into the right-hander of 9, well, right now he'll be taking that distant toe, using it to buffet the Mercedes top end speed, in fact buffet the Ferrari's top end speed, which is to say behind what is already a very sensational top end speed for the Mercedes. And as he comes through turn number 9 down towards 10, well, right now the Ferrari driver just keeping it nice and smooth here and compact, as the qualifying session for our GT3s is almost complete. The majority of them now being called into the pit lane, and well, meanwhile Tom Bingham crosses the line. He stays P2 in the GT3 Silver class, 1/10 precisely off of Stefan Albanese's pole time. Can anybody respond to it in the GT3 Silver? The same in the GT3 Gold class. We've got a couple of drivers still out there trying to put times in, including Adam Delman, who's on his final qualifying lap here. And as he comes on down into turn number 16, currently 9/10 off of the fastest lap. He's improving on this lap, however, he's improved in the latter half of the lap. As he makes his way around to complete it, will it be much of a move up the order? I do not think so. In fact, in the end, he does improve. It's to P6 on a 2:02.69. He manages to shave just shy of 2/10 off, but it's not enough at the end of the day. As meanwhile, Frederick Stenswell is making his way down towards Maggots into Beckett's now. He's still got plenty of time to go. As only Martin Muirk there holds on to P8, but improves to a 2:434. But as we see here, Doreen making his way down towards turn number 13, rolling the car on through right now. With number 35 driver doing everything in his power, but 7/10 off is going to be a tall task. As meanwhile, Ollie Wayne coming on through to complete his final qualifying lap in the GT3 Silver class, down in P7 at the moment in the Mercedes for Next Gen Racing. Can he find those last little slivers of time, or will it be a bridge too far when he comes on through? Well, he makes his way to the timeline, and in the end, Wayne does not find a way to jump place. He does improve his lap time to a 2:1.263, but it's not enough. As meanwhile, that completes the qualifying session with the fact that we do have Duray making their way into the pit lane. So it will be Eric Benson on GT3 Gold pole and overall GT3 pole. It'll then be Stefan Albanese who takes GT3 Silver pole, and Jordan Baywa who takes GT3 Bronze pole for round number 3. But we've had our GT3s, it's now time for our LMDHs and our LMP2s. It's proto time, and as our drivers make the way on around here, immediately a lot of shaking from side to side here from our LMDH drivers, of course, in these BMW V8 Hybrid M machines, have made their official real-world debut as of last weekend at the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona in the state of Florida in the United States, and it didn't quite work out for the BMWs as much as they would have liked it to, perhaps given some of the reliability issues that are encountered and also the performances, but at the same time here, a venerable piece of machinery which has been honed by BMW's M division and will continue to be honed. And right now, all our drivers in the classes will be looking to hone their lap times as much as possible, as we do say hello there to Katie Eames in the Facebook chat. And doing well, thank you, Katie. Hope you're doing well as well. And as we do see our drivers making the way around, we do not have a time from what is a good number of drivers in the GT3 Gold class as well. Should be pointed out, including John Higgins Jr. and also Deegan Fairclough. And what I do wonder there, if there's a little bit of a story to come with regards to how they perform when they do go racing. But we'll come back to the topic there of what is our GT3s when we go to the grid. And instead we focus on our prototype machines now, as Daines continues to try and find temperature, really struggling for temperature here and not really going on to a lap. Currently, everybody right now really having to push on. Meanwhile, the LMP2s, by comparison, really going for it early here, as we do see what is Kevin Stringer tucked in behind Nigel Stock as they break their way down to turn number 3. And these two not really giving one another space, but Stock goes straight on there with cold brakes and cold tyres, not enabling him to retard the car into turn number 3. Hazard lights on as it rejoins, and well, a bit of evasive action being taken there by one of the Next Gen Racing drivers, one of the Next Gen Racing Blue LMDHs. Not quite sure who that was, but they've taken a bit of evasive action there. And definitely not going right for Nigel Stock. But meanwhile, Mark Sykes coming on through as well. In fact, that was Mark Sykes. We should correct ourselves. It was not an LMDH, it was Sykes as he made his way through then the Lara P217 LMP2. And as he comes on through turn number 7 at the moment, well, all of our LMDH is really struggling for tyre temperature. And I wonder if that is going to be the big question of this entire qualifying session in terms of how many laps will they actually get. Will they have got some tyre temperature and the battery to play with? Because, of course, the change for a circuit such as this, where it's a high downforce circuit, and therefore the LMP2s and the LMDHs will really not spend too much time braking. Instead, they'll spend a lot of time doing downshifts and lifting and shifting and coasting in the car. You can imagine they're not going to be regenerated anywhere near as much battery as they would at, say, a circuit such as our season opener at Fuji or the Hockenheimring last time out. And in fact, the funny thing about that was, when I had the chance to catch up to Chris Daines just before we went racing today, he mentioned the exact same thing in terms of the struggles of the LMDH cars in getting that battery recharge. And well, as we continue to see our drivers making the way on through at the moment, well, what will be coming on through for Mark Sykes here as he breaks his way into 16 and 17. He'll make his way through the left into right, and as he comes on out here to complete the lap, where it has been a lap that's been slightly impeded with Nigel Stock's return at turn number 4, albeit we're not pointing fingers. It's just the way it went as we saw it play out. But as Sykes comes across the line, it's a time that does not count there, so he's still got time to find. He's still got to get a bad lap on the board. Meanwhile, Kevin Stringer just up the road for him for SCCR Sim Sports, making his way through through 3 into 4 here, onto the brakes nice and early there as he rolls his way through the loop and just about stays all the way along at the edge of the curb in there as he makes his way to entry and up towards 60 goes. All of our drivers right now trying to find as much time as possible and trying to get those valid laps on the board, but it definitely seems to be a major challenge here in what is a very cold Silverstone circuit compared to perhaps what they were expecting. But meanwhile, as we do look to our LMDHs here, looking to our LMDH silver pole sitter currently of Mark Baker, the only driver in class yet to put a time on the board, and of course racing here for speed at 9 esports, as everyone else in his category has yet to get a time on the timing sheets. We can see here Baker with 45.351, currently 1.1 seconds almost of a Jamie Dory's provisional pole time in the LMDH Gold class. So I think there is a lot of time still to be found for our drivers, but it's about them actually being able to find it out there on the circuit. And it does sound as though we're repeating ourselves there, but I think everybody does have a lap time in mind. They will put the practice in, but when it comes to the actual doing it in anger, just these little mistakes and the troubles they're having in getting tyre temperature really is holding so many drivers back. But one driver is not being held back right now, Gaz Williams, as he goes provisional on the LMDH Gold class down to 43.740, and as he roils his way through 2 and into 3, getting himself set up now for another lap, and even fast lap, as meanwhile Chris Daines makes his way through turn number 17, heads for 18 here. He's purple over the most of the lap, and as he comes to the line, I think this is going to be an absolute monster of a lap should it qualify, and in fact it is a 43.285 for LMDH Gold class, and that puts him provisional pole there by a margin of almost, well, it's half a second over Gaz Williams as the times continue to come on in, and we're finally seeing some LMP2 times coming in, and Kevin Stringer strikes the first blow there for 49.767. Mark Sykes meanwhile 6/10 off on a 15.370, but still no time coming in for Nigel Stock as we see him here making his way down to turn number 3 and still trying to find that lap time, at least one that will put him on the board, albeit of a class of only 3 drives here. I don't think he'll be too worried if he doesn't get the time on the board, so he can always try and make up the time in the race. Given his flying starts that we typically see, I think Nigel Stock will be looking for another screamer off the line, there's no question about it. But as he powers his way down the Wellington straight, we look to Paul Williams here, the Speed 9 Esports driver, still looking for the time out there as he rolls his way into turn 6 and 7. We'll very shortly get you an on-board lap with one of our LMDHs that's coming on through. But Williams right now, again, we've called him Mr. Consistent in the fact that in the LMDH Silver class, nobody has been able to touch him as far as concerns come in that respect to lapping consistently lap after lap in the race, and also qualifying relatively high, if not on pole. And can he make it work today? Well, speaking of drivers trying to make it work, Gaz Williams comes on through the final corner here and goes onto a lap, and we jump inside the LMDH driver's car as he charges onto another flyer. So making his way into turn number 1 here, completely on the charge, no brake, and a small lift potential as he comes into 2, and now rolling the car onto the brakes here in turn number 3, using the downforce through the opening couple of corners, clearing apex at 60 miles an hour as he makes his way into loop, and as he makes his way out to turn number 4 on the pound nice and early there, as he now powers his way through Aintree, all the way up the gearbox he goes, as Daines improves further to 43.214, and now Williams will know that he's got to respond as he makes his way down towards turn 6. Braking at about 70 metres there, coming down to 3rd gear from 6th gear, little understeer creeping in as he transitioned off the brake, but brings it together nicely as he comes through turn number 7 in 2nd gear, building that throttle up, and immediately now hammering the throttle as he makes his way through the right-hander Woodcock corner and up towards Cops at turn number 9. That's been a good first half of lap, and now he makes his way into the second one. Listening. Braking there at the 50-metre board, dropping 1 gear to 5th gear, and then relying on the downforce to do the rest of the work. Now charging through maggots into Beckett's here, and we'll come flat out into 10 on the lift off there into turn number 11 before rolling the car down a gear, down another gear to 4th gear, down to 3rd as he comes on through turn 13. As he powers his way through Chapel, it's flat out once again, all the way in the run down the hanger straight now into where the only limited elevation changes on lap, the depression before the rise. And as he gets ready to go into turn number 15, looks at his left-hand side in 7th gear, braking just before the 50 board, down 3 gears to 4th gear, gets back on the power, absolutely calm, collected and in control as he brakes his way into turn 16, now braking there about 90 metres, just brakes a little bit deep, the car creeps away initially, but he brings it back together and in fact decides to back off the lap there and go again. It's not been a great lap for Gaz Williams, albeit we've enjoyed it, but it's not been a lap that he's going to be putting up there on the timing tout, and decides he needs to do another. But meanwhile, speaking of drivers who are currently completing their laps, and he's making their way on through it and looking good, you can see it here. Currently, your provisional pole sitter in the LMDH Silver class with 3 minutes to go. He makes way through the final corner. Purple in subsector 2. Improved over the majority of the rest lap of 44.915 was his previous best, but that lap did not count in the end. In fact, it was an invalidated lap, and it's got to go again. But as he comes on through here and up towards turn number 3, given the fact he's only on pole by 400ths at the moment from this man Callum Jenkins, well, you can imagine that Seagate right now will be looking to try and find a bit more time, because Jenkins, despite his troubles last time out in Germany, he's definitely looking on point and on pace today. And what if he can find just a little bit more time, he may be on pole come the end of it. Meanwhile, in the LMP2 class, as we see there, Mark Sykes improves to 49.384 with the improvement there, moves in closer, but look at the gap in the LMP2 class from pole to P3. It's 400ths between the 3 drivers there. I know we talk about it being a small class, but to be fair, for a small class to have all 3 drivers separated by not even half a tenth goes to show you how much the LMP2s mean to them and how much they have practiced and honed their skills in the Dallara P217 machine, because to be that close, and Nigel Stock right now really trying to leave the best for last in terms of putting those lap times in. Can he continue this? Because right now he could be on course to pick up his maiden pole position in class. He makes his way into turn 6-7 there, rolling the car through nicely, but he does have some LMDH traffic, we should say, there coming up behind him as he makes his way through turn 7. But I think he will be safe for the time being. But as he comes roaring on through, meanwhile, we do look to our drivers in the LMDH Gold class coming on through the final couple of corners, including SCCR Simsports Craig Jones as he makes way through turn 16 into 17. As he comes on through the final corner, currently P6, almost 2 seconds off the fastest lap. That has recently been upgraded to a 42.70, or to be a little bit more precise, a 697 for Rafael DeSantis. And well, DeSantis absolutely on fire currently, as here is the DRS Esports driver making his way through what is there, the run out of Maggots into Beckett's and through Chapel, and he is half a second faster than anybody else right now, getting himself set up for one final lap potentially, given the fact that he does have 40 seconds left. He'll have enough time to creep on round, albeit he's got to do it relatively soon in order to get himself set up for success. Meanwhile, we see Chris Daines here coming on through to go on to one last lap, and well, improving across the board there on his latest lap for the most part, 42.901. He's halved the deficit there to what is now 2 tenths, but it does look as though Rafael DeSantis has a response still. But when we did catch up with Chris Daines in the build-up to tonight, of course, we talked about earlier his concerns on the battery regeneration on the car, and also the fact that because there's such a high average speed and not too many heavy braking zones, it's all going to be about carrying that speed and not being able to regenerate the battery as comfortably. And he is expecting the LMDHs to fall off pace during the midpoint of the races and need to sacrifice lap time for battery saving as a result. It's definitely going to be strategic in the class, but right now it's not about strategy. It's all about putting the car on pole and setting yourself up for success from the outset. Well, as our drivers continue on around, we do have a couple making their way into the pits, including Yunland, who is P7 in the LMDH Gold class. Meanwhile, coming to the timeline very shortly, in fact, creeping his way along. He's done enough here. It's Gaz Williams for P4, but meanwhile, coming on through, we do have Craig Jones, who currently P6. He'll be looking to try and find a bit more time. He's improved in subsectors 2 and 3. A bit of a slide there coming out to 17. Through the final corner he goes. And can Jones find a bit more on the clock as he crosses? No, he cannot. He'll stay P6 on his current lap time. Meanwhile, it's Benjamin McCluskey who comes on through the final corner, currently P3. And he crosses the line there. He's improved slightly. No, he has not. In fact, he stays P3 on his previous best of what is a 43.42. Meanwhile, we do have Jochen Seeger coming to the line. He's currently provisional pole on a 44.915, and he just misses out on improving there. But I think he's put it high enough. It's going to be very fine margins between himself and Callum Jenkins. Chris Daines is into the pit lane from what we're hearing. So now it really does come down to the LMDH Silver class here to put in their final lap times, given the fact that Nigel Stock has taken pole position in the LMP2 class by a margin of only 8,000 over Kevin Stringer. And meanwhile, Jenkins coming on down towards the braking zone. You can see Stock behind as he's giving the space to Jenkins, but also trying to give himself a bit of a toe on the straightaways. But as they make the way down through 18 to complete the lap, can Jenkins find the last little bit of time here to put himself on pole? He does. It's only by 1.5 tenths, but it's more than enough with 44.771. He gets it done right at the last hurdle, and Paul Williams in the end, P3 in the LMDH Silver class. Will be the first time this season that we do not see a Speed 9 esports driver on pole in the LMDH Silver class, and Callum Jenkins has made it so. But that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, and now it's time for us to get ready to go racing. And as we get ready to go racing, a quick recap of our pole sitters. Rafael DeSantis on LMDH Gold pole, Callum Jenkins LMDH Silver pole, LMP2 pole to Nigel Stock, Eric Benson for GT3 Gold pole, Stefan Albanese for GT3 Silver pole, and GT3 Bronze pole goes to Jordan Baywa, taking his first pole position of the season. That's a proud statistic at Silverstone, no mean feat by the minimum means of things. But as we continue to wait here for the transfer to the grid, it's quite calm, eerie and quiet now, and we're just waiting for our drivers to make the way. But as the grid is now being set, let's take you through how they line up for the sprint race at Silverstone in round 3 of Season 2 of the Proto GT3 Championship as hosted by NXTGEN Racing on iRacing. We start off with the LMDHs, of course, and it's Rafael DeSantis for DRS Esport who takes overall pole and also class pole there by in the end 2/10 over Rano Motorsports' Chris Daines. Behind him on the next row, we'll have the pair of what is Benjamin McCluskey for NXTGEN Racing Purple and his teammate there of Gaz Williams. We then have Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Racing Orange joined by SCCR SimSports' Craig Jones on the 3rd row, before we then come on to your LMDH Silver pole sitter, and just putting himself ahead of Magno Yonland there, it's Callum Jenkins, the privateer, who managed to out-qualify the Team Slow-Mo Black driver by just shy of half a tenth. We then see Jochen Seeger and Paul Williams, your 2 LMDH Silver drivers, following up on the 5th row there for Speed 9 Esports, and then outside the top 10 it is Mark Baker who completes the LMDH Silvers, followed up by your LMP2 pole sitter of Nigel Stock. Then on row at number 7, it's SCCR SimSports' Kevin Stringer, just ahead of Mark Sykes and NXTGEN Racing Orange. Keep in mind the LMP2s were only separated by 400ths in the end. Then we come to the GT3, starting with Eric Benson, Team Slow-Mo's overall pole sitter in the GT3 class and gold pole sitter, taking pole in the end by just shy of 1/10 over Johan Earson for Team Slow-Mo. And then behind him it's Verano Motorsports' Gavin Gardner, who qualifies P17 ahead of Russell Fowler from Performance Link Esports. Continuing our way on down, Magnus Birkecker there from Team Slow-Mo Leftovers, P19, joined on the 10th row by the privateer Adam Delmont on his debut. And then we do have Frederick Duray for Team Slow-Mo, joined by Oli Martin Muir for Team Slow-Mo as well on row at number 11. Continuing down the field, Stefan Albanese takes P23, and with it your GT3 Silver pole for DRS Esport, joined by Performance Link Esports' Tom Bingham. And then on the 13th row we have Baz Meacham, the privateer, joined by Jordan Bay White, your GT3 Bronze pole sitter and also privateer. Espresso Rian for Team Slow-Mo Leftovers is joined on the 14th row by Paul Scott for NXTGEN Racing Orange, with Ben Bennyworth and Elwin Sykes behind them on the 15th row. The Racing Team Astra driver there having a good qualifying session. It's now on the 16th row, Ollie Wayne for NXTGEN Racing Purple, joined by Ingar Almklov for Team Slow-Mo Leftovers behind the NXTGEN Racing Purple driver. And on the penultimate row, Daniel Stimman for Rossum's Universal Robots and Mark Arrowsmith, the privateer. And then on the final row, it's Deegan Fairclaw from Rocket Racing Stars and Racing Team Astras, Stefan Vessels, who is able to make it. But meanwhile, as our drivers come on down, we get ready to go on racing. The pace car is already in, and now we await for Rafael DeSantis to take us racing. And he goes as late as possible, and Rafael DeSantis leads us underway into turn number 1 as he gets a good start there. Chris Daines tucks in behind immediately, and as they roar their way into the opening corner, 2 wide for many, but they all just about survive it as they now come through 2 and up towards 3. Meanwhile, further back behind the LMDHs, we can see the battle between Nigel Stock and Mark Sykes, but already I believe that Kevin Stringer's had a difficult start to his day. Further back in the GT3 class, they all coming through line astern. I think there's been a bit of a stagnated start, given the fact they started at turn 16 and 17 effectively, but behind Deegan Fairclough there, going up the inside of not just 1, not just 2, but 3 almost, as we also see that come roaring through. It's the KFC machine of Mark Arrowsmith that tries to battle its way on past there, with his, I believe, Elwin Sykes and also Stimon and Alclov as they come out to turn 3 and up towards 4, 5, they roar, but as they come through, Kevin Stringer having a dismal start to his day with what is a jump to the pits, as we understand it, being towed to the pits, but meanwhile, falling down the order like a stone is Oli Martin Muir down the inside in the lower portion of your picture, but we can see here Arrowsmith under pressure from Stimon, who goes up the inside and gets the move done, taking the return for P32 overall. But as they head through turn and obviously, oh goodness me, there's a car off in the rear of the picture, and that is, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that is Ingar Almklov, who's gone on around the team of Slow-Mo of Leftovers drivers, getting it very wrong there. But meanwhile, as we look up towards the front of the field, it's Rafael DeSantis who continues to lead in the MDH Gold class, charging his way on down here towards turn number 15, and as he roars and down, we reload the overlay there, so you're able to see the circuit map in the top right corner of your screen and keep track of where everyone is, as DeSantis having an absolutely brilliant start, keeping Chris Daines behind him. But I think the change is still to come in the fact that Daines now will be starting to build up momentum as they make their way towards the end of this lap. as they come rolling through 16 and 17 to complete the first lap of many today in the sprint. It is Rafael Dos Santos who leads the LMDH class overall, ahead of where's there Chris Daines P2, followed by Gaz Williams P3, then Benjamin McCluskey, Jamie Doria, Craig Jones. They complete what is your top 6 in the LMDH Gold and overall. Callum Jenkins, your LMDH Silver driver there, P7, as he rolls his way on through, and right now in a great start and giving himself plenty of space to play with. Ahead of Magnar Jonland in at P10 there, in fact P8 there we should say, and ahead of Jochen Seeger and Paul Williams, as we see the LMDH Silver drivers for Speed 9 Esports trying to stay close, and then it is a Mark Baker who brings up the best of the rest outside the overall top 10. But meanwhile in the LMP2 class, it is Nigel Stock who leads, albeit he has got a closing Mark Sykes behind him, as of course Kevin Stringer having that instant start race. We're not quite sure what happened, but Stringer being involved in that instant cost him dear. But meanwhile we look back to DeSantis versus Chris Daines, and well, already Daines is trying to go on the offensive as they make the way out to turn number 7 through Woodcock Corner and turn number 8, and make the way up towards turn number 9 they go, side by side here, but Daines on the outside, he switches back to the inside, DeSantis goes off, but there's a bit of contact between the two of them, and as they make their way through the corner here, will Daines make the switch back? I think you argue that Santis came across a little bit too late, but as they make their way down to Maggots into Beckett's, then neither of them are going to back out here, and as they go too wide and through the corners, it's all going to be about who backs out first, and Daines gets it done, as DeSantis there has to let it go, and Chris Daines takes the lead in this race in absolutely thrilling fashion, as they make their way down the hanger straight once more here, but I think it's not over yet. I think they're going to be coming back at one another immediately on the next lap, if not soon, as DeSantis takes another look round the outside. He can't quite find it versus the danger as the Verona Motorsport driver keeps the DRS Esports driver at bay, but there are plenty of corners and with plenty of opportunities. You see DeSantis trying to mimic the same, goes hot on the brakes onto the inside, and he gets it stopped in time, covers off Daines. Daines looks around the outside, it's going to be too wide coming through Club Corner, but as they make the way out, DeSantis returns to the lead after a thrilling run from turn number 7 all the way over the rest of the lap. Now as they make the way down towards turn 1 once again, Gaz Williams here also getting in the fight. It's going to be a three-way fight for the lead. They've got McCluskey and Dory also staying close, but it's not just about them of course, as meanwhile McCluskey goes to the defensive here versus Dory. We've also got some battles further down the field, including what is Ollie Wayne here trying to battle for position in the GT3 class. You can see there the GT3 Silver driver trying to chase after Deegan Fairclough as they make the way into turn number 15. I think falling back little by little as they come off the brakes there and into the acceleration zone, but as they charge the one down a bit further up the road, Espresso Rian as well under pressure from Ben Bennyworth as he also tries to chase after Tom Bingham, and Bingham there, the Performance Link Esports driver, losing 1 place in class at the start but gaining 1 place overall. As the drivers make the one through the corners there, you can see Jordan Bay 1 not halting at all. He's continued to rise through the field as the Ferrari driver there makes his way into another overall position up towards P25 overall, and making it clear as they come on through turn 1 into 2 that right now he's doing everything in his power to try and gain places left, right and centre. But as they break the way down, Dean Feckler up the inside, he's going to go for a 2 for 1 once again versus what is there Scott and also Muir as they make the way through turn number 4, coming out of the loop here. Feckler doing everything in his power right now to use the grip and the downforce of that Audi. Cuts back through Aintree here, but he's not quite got the overspeed versus only Martin Muir as they make the way down towards turn number 6. Onto the brakes they go, but the Rocket Racing Stars here absolutely flying like a missile, if you will, as he comes up the inside there and gains another place. He's showing no signs of slowing down. He wants to win here as a bare minimum. As they make the way out to the corner. Meanwhile, we look from the midfield of the GT3s to up towards the front of the GT3s, and it's Team Slow-Mo's Johan Eirson here, P2 in the GT3 Gold and overall GT3 categories, as he's being chased right now by Gavin Gardner, with teammate Eric Benson there clearing off by a margin of what is 1.5 seconds as they head on through and down towards Maggots into Beckett's, and as they head up towards Beckett's corner now, Will Gardner taking a bit of a cut back there and looking for the run. Will he be able to get it? However, that's the question as we ride on board here with the Ferrari driver. Now building his way up through the gearbox is going to be German Engineering versus the Italian Stallion Machinery. As he looks around the outside, it's going to be a battle on the brakes as they head into long right. And as we can see, Gardner trying to carry the speed with their Eirson. He brakes quite early and does not carry the speed on the inside apex as much as perhaps he would like to have. And in the end, Gardner gets it done around the outside in a classic move. And that's bravery as well for the number 11 driver, in the fact he had to have the full confidence that the car was going to give him the grip. But 2 and 2 went together. He gains P2 in the GT3 Gold class, and now will try and chase down Eric Benson if he can clear his rival Eirson behind. But as they make the way on towards the next lap, meanwhile looking back up to what is the battle between Dean Fairclough and Espresso Rian here. Well, Rian letting it go through turn number 18, given the fact he's not battling with the gold driver now, he's battling for silver points instead as they make the way into turn number 1. Coming on through the right-hander here, both drivers equally in measure, trying to work their own races, as Ben Bennyworth also trying to get into the fight here for what would be P4 in the silver class. He goes up the inside here, using the brilliant brakes of the Porsche to go for it into turn 2, and as they come on through, it's a bit of a medley further behind as Ole Martin Mjork here, Norwegian having to defend from Ollie Wayne, as Paul Scott takes a quick sniff up the inside there as well. He gets the door open, the Next Gen Racing Orange Drive goes all in at Aintree, but now this is where the Mercedes will roar as it opens up the floodgates in terms of that performance. But can that 6.2 litre V8 find a way past the V10 of the Audi before the next braking zone? I don't think it can, but as they come onto the brakes here, Paul Scott with a bit of opportunism finds his way on through and gains P6 in the silver class in equal measure as they make their way through turns 6 and 7 and head on towards the second half of the lap. As they come through, we look back up to the LMDHs here, and Paul Williams right now in P3 ahead of Mark Baker by a margin of only 2/10 of the two teammates there running nose to town, continue to hold pace with each other, and they'll be trying to work together to try and close up to their fellow teammate Jochen Seeger and find a way to take on Callum Jenkins, who right now leading in the LMDH silver class, not by much to be fair, only a margin of what is 9/10, but the thing he has in his pocket is the fact that Magnar Jonlund right now, behind him there you can see the LMDH Pro driver, well they're being overtaken by Jochen Seeger. He was acting as a bit of a buffer, you could argue, for Callum Jenkins, as Seeger goes very aggressive into turn 6 to try and get the move done. He does almost lock the car and has to let the car roll a little bit deep, but he does bring it back to the circuit there. Now Jonlund starting to fall back towards the clutches of the rest of the Speed 9 group as they make their way through turn number 8 once again. But as they charge their way to the right-hander of Copse Corner at turn number 9, will there be a way on through? I don't think so. I think they'll have to run it line astern. But meanwhile, whilst we do have a brief breather in the action, we can take a look back at what happened to Kevin Stringer, your LMP2 driver, on the opening lap. This was coming out the opening couple of corners, and something happened before we got underway. You can see the damage on the side of the car there for Stringer. As soon as we went racing, he had to park it up. I think he's had a knock to the car. We're not quite sure what exactly has caused the damage. We will try and take another look back. This was at the start of the race, and for Stringer, as he made his way through the corner, it was contact with Mark Sykes coming off of turn 18. The two of them went side by side. Further damage further back there from what looked to be one of the GT3 silver drivers, getting it very wrong, and was trying to seal that. I think that was Russell Fowler, in fact, who fell foul of the final corner before they got racing. Indeed, as we went green flag conditions, see everybody scrambling there in the GT3, starting the tight complex, and Fowler getting caught up in the same for Adam Delman as well. In fact, our GT3 Gold drivers, they're both in GT3 Gold and having an early end to the start of their race, albeit they're still racing, but they're a long way off the pace currently and really trying to recover their way back into this race. But as we continue to look to live pictures now, well, we look here to Georgian Baywell, the Frenchman, the privateer here in the 64 Ferrari, roaring high in the official Ferrari colours of red as he makes his way into the next corner on the inside there of Ole Martin Mjork, and it's going to get very tight, but in the end Baywell backs out enough. Mjork carries too much speed and as a result gets it done, but now as they make the way down, well, you can see here it's all concertinaing together, and as they make the way through it, that was Espresso Rian, we should clarify, who was battling there and went a bit deep. Meanwhile, Rian caught in contact and same for Paul Scott, and as they come on through there, Scott going round the same for Espresso Rian, and it's all gone so horribly wrong for the pair, and I think they've all come into a bit of contact too soon. We'll find out what happened to them very shortly, but meanwhile, speaking of battling here, Elwin Sykes, the Racing Team Astra driver, he makes his way under the Johnny Walker billboard, where he's got the Adam Delman trying to go around his outside, and meanwhile, he's got going up his inside Rafael DeSantis, and well, DeSantis there making it look smooth and easy in terms of clearing the traffic, but meanwhile, I think Elwin Sykes then not knowing which way to turn with cars on either side of him, but with that brief moment, we do take a look back to Espresso Arena and Paul Scott coming together. Well, this was in the rundown to Maggots into Beckett, and Rian here, we was behind Benoit, and as they went on through, well, it looks like they're Rian being caught on the back by Paul Scott. Now, I think there might have been a bit of a misinterpretation of who had as much speed as the other coming into the corner, but both drivers there having a knock, and in the end, well, the Norwegian being sent round and Paul Scott with him as they return to the racing. But as we return to the live pictures, we do look back to our LMDHs and we look to the LMDH Golds here as it is all becoming very concertinaed in the run into turns 3 and 4. And well, there is Daniel Stimon being absolutely mobbed and manhandled by the LMDH drivers as Chris Daines falls back to P4 there. He's lost 2 places, and well, you can understand for Chris Daines, I think, being really caught up in the mix of things and not working out at all, as now the Danishman has to try and find a way back up through the order to go hunting after McCluskey, also Jamie Dory, but as he makes his way through turn number 7, this is where the GT3 traffic really hurts. the LMDH drivers for the simple reason they want to carry as much speed off of these corners, but they can't. They have to take sub-optimal lines, and as they make the way into turn number 9 here, well, Daines going to carry all the speed he can, but it's going to get so close as May while on the inside, carrying as much speed as he can as well. But now it's all about having confidence in the other cars as they make the way through Maggots into Beckett, and Daines has to slam on the anchors as only Martin Muir returns to his racing line as they come on down. It's still very nip and tuck as Gaz Williams has to squeeze on past the GT3 Gold driver here. Well, you can imagine it's essentially proverbial speed bumps almost, albeit I don't think the GT3 drivers would like to be referred to as that, but the point being right now that every moment or so the LMDHs have to be really careful about how much speed they carry to the next corner, because they'll carry that speed, they'll catch up to a GT3, and then they've got to completely strip it out of the car before they make contact. But as they make their way through 16, 17, coming on through towards the end of the lap currently, Paul Williams here chasing after Magna Yonland, and one of the Speed 9 drivers is trying to find his way on through, but we have had an incident involving Mark Baker only moments ago, and we'll try and find out exactly what happened shortly. But meanwhile, before we look to that, we do look to Tom Bingham here, under pressure for Deacon Fairclough, who looks up the inside, and as they make the way through turn number 3, coming through Village and in to the loop, where again it is a huge concertina, as we can see. Bingham literally been swarmed by 3 LMDHs, and as they make the way around, that was Dory ahead of McCluskey, and look at Chris Daines now on the offensive here. As we ride on board and look back from Jamie Dory, you can see McCluskey goes to the outside, Daines tucks in, and Dory defends on the inside line. They roll the way in, and Daines is going to look for the 2 for 1. He goes away, there's Buzz Meacham in the way, and as they come through 6 into 7, Dory is absolutely robbed of places, as Meacham's just got nowhere to go as the GT3 silver driver, and Daines gains 1. Benjamin McCluskey gains 1 as well, and Daines is not done. He's looking for more places. He wants 2nd place as a minimum as they come into Cops Corner here, and McCluskey, well, my goodness, how on earth he's still holding that position after Daines made it look as though he was going to sweep them both through 6 into 7 and emerge from Luffield the victor. Well, McCluskey right now has got a huge amount of pressure as they roll their way out of Maggots into Beckett. Through Chapel they go. They bypass there what is one of our GT3 drivers, and as they come roaring on down, we're hearing that Callum Jenkins has been involved in an incident. That's dropped him out the lead of the LMDH Silvercast. We'll come back to that shortly, but Daines trying to go around the outside of McCluskey. McCluskey makes it wide. And as they make the way out to turn number 15, into 16, 17 they go. Well, with the GT3s there, they've only got one lateral line. And as they come through the left into right here, Daines is going to have to save it all up when they get some clear space. Now, good news for Daines is he's got a lot of clear space coming up after they pass Gavin Gardner, but with that in mind, of course, that means now the racing will take a different tone. It's about who's been saving the battery as well as they make the way into turns 1 and 2 here, roaring the way on through. Jamie Dory not too far off the pace either, but Daines immediately goes on the offensive here. Now you can see it clear in front of him. He goes on the brakes on the outside, cuts back to the inside. It'll put him on the outside here for the loop as he makes his way through the left-handed. Gingerly on the throttle they all go, and they power their way into Aintree. The trio right now nose to tail still, and all trying to find that advantage on one another, but nobody seems to be able to find it immediately. Meanwhile, looking back to our GT3 bronze drivers, here is Daniel Stimon, who right now really enjoying a good run in this race as he makes his way through turn 1 into 2. Currently P2 in the GT3 bronze class and trying to hound what's the back of Russell Fowler, your GT3 gold driver in P9 in the GT3 gold class after that early incident cost him very dear. But as they make the way through 3 into 4, we do look back from them back up to Paul Williams and Callum Jenkins, as Jenkins there trying to go outside to inside, and that'll be in the run there, we do believe, through 6 and 7 as they make the way out to Luffield Corner and onwards they go. Brilliant camera there mounted inside the exit curve of Luffield Corner into Woodcott, and as they head up towards Cox Bend at turn number 9 right now, well, Jenkins losing out, and how exactly did he lose out here is the question. Well, we're going to find out very shortly, but before we do, that does look to be Paul Williams going quite slowly off the exit of Cox Corner, being impeded a little bit by Stefan Albanese, who's just minding his own business on the racing line. But as they make the way on through the quick serpentine sequence, Jenkins on the inside of Beckett. Can he get it done? He's going to try and open the door for himself, but he gets it. And Paul Williams has to back out on corner exit, and Callum Jenkins gains the place back. He's back up into P2 in the LMDH silver class with 4 minutes to go. And what you can see is 8 seconds clear, and Paul Williams is trying to come on back. But I think Callum Jenkins right now, there's only one way he's going, and it's up through the field as he makes his way down into turn number 16 through the Vale. But heading onto the brakes, Williams goes all in again. He looks the inside there, but just not enough to deter Callum Jenkins from turning in and make him react to it. And instead, Callum Jenkins now, I think, is clear. But what exactly put him back into that position to have to battle for P2? This is what happened. So it was in the run into Magus, and in the end contact with Baz Meacham and Dean Fairclaw, and as they all came through, also further contact there with what was Ole Martin Mjuk, who managed to survive it all, but the trio came roaring on down, and was they all returned, everybody coming on through at the same time, getting very busy, but Dean Fairclaw absolutely there, being turned sideways alongside Meacham, and we can tell you that the GT3 silver driver Baz Meacham has had to be towed to the pitch due to that contact, and well, that's a disaster for the trio there. It's cost them all dear, but meanwhile one driver here will be hoping he's not cost an opportunity to put one over his championship rival. He needs to gain some points on. Here's Benjamin McCluskey, P2 in the LMDH Gold class, as he makes his way down through Maggots into Beckett's here and roaring his way on through. Well, Daines is ever close, but he's not close enough to pounce, or is he? As they get ready to attack now onto the hanger straight, and well, McCluskey holding firm. The gap is 2/10 currently as they head full throttle in the charge. Daines pulls out to the racing line. McCluskey responds immediately here. Is it a feint, however, from Daines? It is a potential feint as Daines tucks in, but McCluskey goes him off there. A bit of contact between the two of them from nose to tail, but as they head on down through the Vale, not many more laps to go. Meanwhile, speaking not many laps to go here, Nigel Stock continues to lead the LMP2 class, only by what is half a second, if that, over Mark Sykes, who continues to hound and chase him into turn number 9 there. Through Coxbend they go, and as they make the way on through, well, they still do have, of course, what is their P3 in the silver class of Ben Bennyworth, who's behind Paul Scott, P8 in the silver class, albeit a lap down. That's in the GT3s, we should point out, but right now the GT3 silver drivers minding their own way on through the serpentine sequence of corners of Maggots into Maggots, and as they come through with 2 minutes left to go, still plenty of time to play. You can imagine for places it's not over until they cross that line and that checker flag is waved, and everybody will be very wary of that for the simple reason anything can happen come the very end. And one driver right now who will be just simply thinking about keeping it calm and collected all the way to the end is this man, Rafael De Santis, the DRS eSport driver from Italy, who is leading overall and in the LMDH Gold class by 8.6 seconds. But meanwhile, as we do look a bit further back, there's been some sort of incident involving Fairclaw and also I think a couple of other drivers further back, but the Frenchman here, Georgian Bayrois, gaining another couple of overall places. He's still the leader of the GT3 bronze class, regardless of how many places he gained, but he's got an advantage of 9.2 seconds here over his next driving class, which is Daniel Simon. As we can see here, the Russian Universal Robots driver here from the Czech Republic doing everything right so far as he heads on to his final lap under race conditions in the sprint, and a really strong run, albeit he's got Elwin Sykes for company, only half a second back as he goes a bit wide there, and Elwin Sykes will look at this as an opportunity to go on the offensive as they battle on the brakes. Sykes is going to go around the outside, and Simon then loses the position as the Racing Team Astra driver goes a bit deep. Both of them now, I think, with tyres that have seen a bit too much wear, but they're both trying to keep it on track, and they both just about survive as Elwin Sykes then moves up into P2. Meanwhile, whilst all that's happening, Chris Daines here battling hard with Benjamin McCluskey for turns 16, 17 and into the final lap they charge, and as they come on through, McCluskey's going to try and come back immediately here as they head across the line. It's the battle for P2 in the LMDH Gold class. They've given up and battling for the lead. You can understand that. It's 10.1 seconds away from them, not coming close anytime soon, but Daines right now trying to do everything in his power to keep McCluskey at bay as they head through turn number 3 into 4, and well, both of them here trying to settle the score with regards to who's going to be the championship leader come the end of tonight. And Daines wants it to be him, of course, given he's got a 3-point advantage, but McCluskey is not letting it slide, and as they make the way out of Aintree down the Wellington Straight they charge. Well, I think McCluskey may have just not got quite enough in the tank to get this done, but how did it all happen, I hear you ask? This is how it started. We was in the battle in the run down towards turn number 15 as they made the way through. Daines switching to the inside at the last moment, and as they made the way out to the right handle, McCluskey still on the outside, battling hard here, the two, much like what we saw between Daines and De Santis much earlier on. But as they came on through there, Daines outside to inside, keeping McCluskey pinned there on the apex and getting the move sealed. But as we return to the live pictures here, well, as they roar their way down Maggots into Beckett's now, Daines does seem to have got the clearance he needs, but as he heads on towards the very end of this race, meanwhile we look from him to class leader here of Rafael De Santis, the DRS eSport driver, and well, after battling with Chris Daines early on and taking the lead, he's never looked back since then, and whilst he's had a bit of traffic to deal with, he's always found a way to safely find his way on through in the sprint, and as he gets ready to head through the last couple of corners, the checker flag awaits him. It's been a flawless start to today at Silverstone, and Rafael De Santis from DRS eSport is your winner overall and in the gold LMDH categories, ahead of Chris Daines, who'll be coming through shortly, 9.5 seconds behind to complete his run to P2 for Honda Motorsport, and then Benjamin McCluskey P3 there for Next Gen Racing, with Next Gen Racing purple. Jamie Dory shortly P4 ahead of Craig Jones P5, but it is Jochen Seeger who, as he makes his way through the last couple of corners, will bring on home for Speed9 Esports another win in the LMDH silver category there in what is P6 overall. Congratulations to him. We'll then shortly have Callum Jenkins coming through, a great recovery to P2 for the privateer there in the 19, P2 in the LMDH silver class that is, and he will finish ahead of Magnar Jonlund, who crossed the line there in what is P8 overall, P6 in the LMDH gold class ahead of Paul Williams there, round off the podium for the LMDH silvers. We then have Nigel Stock making his way on down what is here the back straight down the hanger straight he goes, and in fact the way the field's worked his way out here, we are going to catch most of our class winners coming across the line in batches here, as we do in fact to look ahead of Stock, because here is your GT3 gold leader in the number 16 Audi R8 for Team Slow-Mo. He's had an absolutely brilliant start to today and he caps it off with a win. Eric Benson is your winner in GT3 gold there, ahead of Gavin Garner, who holds off Johan Essen to line. Nigel Stock will be your LMP2 winner there, the privateer. A brilliant drive from him to finish 16.2 seconds clear of his rivals, and then it'll be Stefan Albanese. We had concerns about tonight, but those concerns aren't showing, because he takes the win in the GT3 silver class there for DRS Esport, the Italian, and then it will be behind him very shortly Tom Bingham, who crossed line P2 for Performance Link Esports in the GT3 silver class, and then we will have Ben Bennyworth coming to line P3 in the GT3 silvers, and then here he comes, ladies and gentlemen. He picks up his maiden win. Jordan Beauvoir, the Frenchman, the privateer in the 64 Ferrari, is your GT3 bronze winner ahead of Elwin Sykes, who comes on home to bring it through to P2 in the GT3 bronze class, and it has been confirmed already it'll be Daniel Stimon for Rossum's Universal Racing Robots who rounds off the GT3 bronze podium, as Espresso Rien there comes across the line P5 in the GT3 silver class, and what is effectively P29 overall, where most of our drivers haven't completed the race. In fact, all of them have completed the race. What a fantastic race from start to finish, it has to be said. And as we do look here too at Speed9 Esports, is Jochen Seeger coming on home into the pit lane, while LMDHs and our GT3s and also LMP2s, to be fair, really having to find their way around one another on the circuit, and plenty of instances to talk about where classes came together in the tight medleys of the high speed sections, particularly Maggots into Beckett's and also at Copse Corner, but most surviving it and finding their way through to spectacular results. But Nigel Stock holding off Mark Sykes in the end. Kevin String having that difficult start to the race, of course, with that contact with Sykes coming out of the last corner before they went racing effectively on the opening lap. But the privateer here bringing it on home with a 16-second advantage. And could this be the day where he makes it a double? I think he'd love to dream to do so. But speaking of doing so, let's take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. Well, as we bring out the results, we start off with the overall results first and foremost, as always, and we can see here that after 20 minutes of racing in race number 1 of round 3 of the Proto GT3 Championship hosted by NXTGEN Racing Season 2, Rafael Dos Santos there taking the overall win by 9.5 seconds for DRS Esport over Chris Daines for Verano Motorsport, with Benjamin McCluskey there completing at the top 3. That's overall podium, that's overall LMDH podium, and also LMDH Gold podium, ahead of Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Racing Orange, Craig Jones in P5 for SCCR Sim Sports, and then we do come to Jochen Seeger there for Speed9 Esports, your LMDH silver winner, ahead of Callum Jenkins, who finished P2 in the LMDH silver class, and then we do have Magnar Jonlund there, P8, ahead of Paul Williams, the Speed9 Esports driver, behind the Team Slow-Mo black driver, but he'll be happy in the fact that he's rounded off the podium of the LMDH silver class. Now Nigel Stock, P10, completing the overall top 10, your LMP2 class winner there, ahead of Mark Sykes and NXTGEN Racing Orange, and then we continue to make our way down, but now focusing on our podium finishers in each of the classes overall, and we can see that our next podium finisher, our winner in the GT3 Gold class, Eric Benson there for Team Slow-Mo in P14, ahead of Gavin Gardner and Johan Essen, the trio there all together as they cross the line, but the Verano Motorsport being sandwiched between the Team Slow-Mo drivers, but still fighting hard for that P2 in the GT3 Gold class. Stefan Albanese there taking the win in the GT3 Silver class, P17 overall in emphatic fashion for DRS Esport, and as we continue our way on down the standings there, you can see then Tom Bingham in P19 for Performance Link Esports, another podium to add to his collection, and another strong result there for the Porsche driver ahead of his rival, who finished P3 on the GT3 Silver podium, P22 overall, Ben Bennyworth there, the privateer, in another solid result. We can then see Kevin Stringer, P23, the SCCR SimSports driver, recovering to P23 overall in the end, but looking to turn things around in the next race of the day. Not to finish on the bottom step of the LMP2 podium, but on the top step will be his preference, as the curse of the sprint seems to continue for the LMP2 driver. And then we come on to Jordan Baywell there in P24 overall, your GT3 bronze winner of the privateer by a sizable margin over Elwyn Sykes, second place in the GT3 bronze class P28. And as we come to the very end of the standings here, we do see in the end it is confirmed in fact that it is Ingar Almklov who, as we see on the results board here, finished in P3 in the GT3 bronze class, despite our timing saying the opposite, and the Team Slow-Mo leftovers driver there being counted on the podium in what was a difficult race for him, much like for his rival Daniel Stimon. Both drivers there looking to have a better feature. But now coming on to the individual classes, we start with the LMDH Gold class. And we can see here, Rafael Dos Santos confirmed as your winner by a rather sizable margin of almost 10 seconds over Chris Daines, with Benjamin McCluskey in at P3. And then Jamie Dory and Craig Jones completing the top 5, with Magna Yonland and Gaz Williams completing the standings there. And Gaz Williams not having a stellar start to his day, but he'll look to turn it around in the feature. We then come on to the LMDH Silver class, and we can see here that you can see it taking the win by 9.4 seconds over Callum Jenkins, the Speed9 esports driver. They're getting one over the privateer, but he'll be hard-pressed to do the same in the feature, with Jenkins' relative pace, and then Paul Williams completing the podium ahead of Mark Baker, who in the end finished a lap down. And then we come on to the LMP2 class, and we can see in our trio of drivers, Nigel Stock taking the win over Mark Sykes and Kevin Stringer, with Stringer having those difficulties at the start of the race, of course, but never giving up. And then we come to the GT3 Gold class here, heading on to our other class of machinery, and we can see Eric Benson there, the Team Slow-Mo driver, confirm your GT3 Gold winner. And I believe with that, picking up his first win of the season in the GT3 Gold class, unless I'm mistaken, by 2 seconds over Gavin Gardner, with Johan Ersson there completing at the gold podium for Team Slow-Mo. There's Magnus Bjerke there for Team Slow-Mo leftovers, who just pipped his rival, Frederick Stensbo de Rey, to the post there for P4, with de Rey P5 to complete the top 5, and then Adam Delman, Ole Martin Mjork, Russell Fowler, Deegan Fairclaw, and Stefan Vessels completing the top 10, albeit Stefan Vessels not taken to the grid, nor the same for John Higgins Jr. there, and their P10, P11, but will be classified as did not start. We then come on to what is the GT3 Silver class, and we can see here with regards to our silver drivers, Stefan Albanese taking the win by 8 seconds over Tom Bingham, the DRS eSport driver there in stellar form, but the Performance Link eSport driver Tom Bingham having to be very evasive of what's going on around him, but by being alert he's brought it on home, and it is 2 Porsches on the podium, with the privateer Ben Bennyworth also bringing the Porsche to P3. Behind them, Ollie Wayne and Espresso Rien, with Ollie Wayne recovering to P4 after a difficult start for NXTGEN Racing Purple, but making the Mercedes go, with the driver from Team Slow-Mo leftovers there, Espresso Rien completing the top 5 after a difficult mid-portion of the race, and then Baz Meacham, Mark Arrowsmith and Paul Scott completing at the standings. And then we come to the GT3 Bronze class, last but not least, and we can see here Jordan Baywa completing that run to bring home his first win in the GT3 Bronze class of the season, 13.7 seconds clear of Elwyn Sykes, and a great run to P2 for Racing Team Astra, and then Ingar Almklov for P3 there for Team Slow-Mo leftovers, ahead of Daniel Stimon, who had that difficult end to the race after being on course for P2 for the majority of it. But the Rossums Universal Robots driver will know there's still plenty to go, and he is looking strong here today at Silverstone. But those are the results, ladies and gentlemen, and with that, we'll be back in approximately what will be 5 minutes' time for the build-up to the feature race, where it's been a very frantic sprint, there's no question about it, but will it be calmer, or will it be a bigger emphasis on the strategy in the feature? You'll have to wait and find out. We'll be back soon. Don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back and we're set to go racing once again very shortly. We've had our sprint for today, and we saw in the sprint race in race 1 of the 2 in round number 3 that it did seem to be a little bit congested going on through the high-speed serpentine sequence of Maggots into Beckett's, and we also saw plenty of 3 and 4 wide between classes and across multiple car classes in the run into Village and the Loop. But now, with 60 minutes of racing on the cards very shortly, it's all going to come down to just as much strategy as it will be outright pace and brazen aggression, and who'll be able to come away with the win in the second race of today. Well, that's going to be the question that we're all wondering to the very checkered flag. But as our drivers get set to go once again, well, could it be Eric Benson in the GT3 Gold class who can make it 2 out of 2 today after a brilliant win in the sprint by a good margin in holding off Gavin Gardner and also Johan Essen to the finish line? Or can the Team Slow-Mo driver find a way to come from the back of the class to make it 2 on the bounce? It, of course, give him a huge buffer with regards to points in the championship, but at the same time, it's going to be a big challenge given the fact that to pick your way through over 60 minutes where you've got plenty of time when everyone's absolutely gunning for gold in your class, respectively, it does mean you have to make those moves early, because once everyone settles into strategy and the gaps open up, you may find those opportunities come wanting. But it also applies the same here for our LMDH drivers, such as, for example, it's Paul Williams. After a difficult start to his race in the sprint, found his way back up there onto the podium at the very end. But the Speed 9 Esports driver will not be content with that. He'll want to make it a much higher place on the podium, be going for that all-important win, as he does lose the rear of the car there and goes for a bit of a wheel spin coming on through the loop and just get himself set. But it is still quite cold here, with those temperatures not changing too much, as we do bring up the weather on the right-hand side of your screen. And what we can see there, how currently it is only still 18 degrees centigrade. It's still 21 degrees track temperature. It's not really evolving it given the amount of cloud we have over the circuit, and therefore that is the challenge that all our drivers face, is finding that temperature and being able to find the balance between aggression and just gradually bringing the car up through its numerous stages of tyre evolution. But as our drivers will evolve, they're racing in the base of their understanding they've taken from the sprint race. There's still plenty to watch out for, plenty to wait for, and it does look as though many of you enjoyed it there in the YouTube and Facebook chat. We see it's a bold job there saying, wish I was able to do this one. It looks like a whole load of fun indeed. I think a lot of drivers really enjoyed it there, and also KT into the Facebook chat saying lots of carnage tonight with hands over eyes there. I think some of our drivers may just be given a slight warning in between the races in the Discord in terms of to calm things down and just make sure to be wary of the fact that there are multiple classes at racing, and sometimes when you're coming up behind another class, also if you've got drivers coming up behind you, there may be a battle entwined within that, and therefore just being a little bit more wary. Not sure our drivers will aim to calm it down, or at least they'll start to calm it down, and then we may see the storm encroach upon the racing as we get the feature underway. But of course, that's what multi-class racing does generate. It does lead to those incredibly tense moments. It's about surviving those tense moments, being wary of them and knowing how to manage them. That's the difference between you being championship winner at the end of the season and not quite being up to scratch. But as the checker flag comes out on this final practice warm-up session, we get ready to head over to the grid for race number 2. So as they line up on the grid, this is how they stand for the feature race of today. It is Gaz Williams who takes overall an LMDH Gold pole there for Next Gen Racing Purple, joined by Magna Yonan from Team at Slow-Mo Back. Behind the Next Gen Racing Purple driver on the second row is SCCR Sim Sports' Craig Jones, joined by Jamie Dory, who completes the second row for Next Gen Racing Orange. And then the third row goes to the pair Next Gen Racing Purple's Benjamin McCluskey and Chris Daines from Verana Motorsport. No strangers to battling one another hard, there's no doubt about that. Now on row number 4, we have Rafael DeSantis, the DRS Esport winner last time out, ahead of Mark Baker from Speed 9 Esports. Now on row number 5, we have the pair of Paul Williams for Speed 9 Esports and Callum Jenkins, the privateer, who sits behind your pole sitter in the LMDH Silver class. You can see that starts off our 6th row, joined by your pole sitter for the LMP2 class of SCCR Sim Sports' Kevin Stringer there. And then on the 7th row, we have the pairing of Mark Sykes, the Next Gen Racing Orange, and Nigel Stock, the privateer, to complete our prototype machines. Behind them, Deegan Fairclough starts on pole position for the GT3 Golds for Rocket Racing Stars, joined by Performance Link Esports' Russell Fowler, with Ola Martin Muir and Adam Delmont on the 9th row, and then Frederick Duray, that's Frederick Stensbo at Duray, and Gavin Gardner line up behind there on what is the 10th row. In fact, that's Magnus Bjerkeke there. We've had a bit of a incorrection on our data. We then have Johan Essen and Gavin Gardner starting on the 11th row, and they will be joined by Eric Benson and Stefan Vessels behind on the 12th row, and then we'll follow that up by the combination of what will be their Paul Scott and Mark Arrowsmith on row 13, the GT3 Silver pole sitter Paul Scott, head of Baz Beecham and Espresso Riem, then Ollie Wayne and Ben Bennyworth, head of Tom Bingham, Stefan Albanese, and then we will have our bronze pole sitters. But we'll have to cut away from that, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for us to go racing. And as they make the one through the last couple of corners, it's the Gaz Williams to get us underway for 60 minutes of racing action here in the feature. And he goes with the lights out, and away we charge in towards turn number 1. And NXTGEN Racing Pole's Gaz Williams tries to hold the lead, but as they make the way into the braking zone here, well, they're going to be sensitive on the first time round. Well, Benjamin McCluskey there, battling side by side with what is Craig Jones. In fact, that's Magda Yonland alongside. Craig Jones getting clear. Chris Daines takes a look, meanwhile, on the inside. Meanwhile, further back, we can see here the LMDH Silver drivers all making it through safe and sound. You can see it holding firm at the back of the group, and then a bit further back in the GT3s. We've had no incidents so far with Johan Essen having a good start as they all concentrate their way on through, but making their way into turn number 4 behind Baz Beecham, starting alongside Paul Scott and looking to get the run here coming out of the loop. As further back, Elwin Sykes meanwhile has gained ground already on Ingot Almklop and has taken the lead of the GT3 bronze class. But as we look from them back up to Baz Beecham here, well, right now trying to pressure Paul Scott into a mistake into turn number 6. Onto the brakes they go, no way through, instead of having to wait his turn as they make the way out of the left right and head up towards Cop's corner gradually. But as they make the way on through, meanwhile Chris Daines going very slowly there after we believe what was an off track at turn number 7 at Luffield corner. But whilst he's trying to get back on track, meanwhile Jamie Dory up the inside there, Rafael DeSantis with a very savage line through what was Maggots and coming into Beckett's now, and the NXTGEN Racing orange driver there showing no quarter and no space spared when he makes his way onto the hanger straight. And as they charge the one down there, you can see Callum Jenkins just behind, leading the LMDH Silvers and not losing track of this either as they make their way to turn number 15 and all staying strong here. As further back, we can also see our LMP2s getting quite close together with the LMDHs, and Nigel Stock here trying to pick his place through what is Paul Williams and also Jochen Seeger. But in the end, where it does look as though he's falling back a little bit on the LMP2 leader of Kevin Stringer ahead on Mark Sykes there. The gap between them only half a second. But as they roll the way through, we've still got plenty more to come. Stefan Vessels now, as we can confirm, has come back to the grid for the feature race. He joins us here, and the Racing Team Astra driver already making a little bit of ground and passed on with Magnus Fullerton via kicker and also Gavin Garner and trying to pick up some more places. He comes into the left-hander here of turn number 16. As he rolls his way on through towards the end of this lap, which has been a strong start for the South African and may continue as he heads on towards a new lap of racing. But as he comes on through it, meanwhile, we can see here, you can see it battling hard with what is Paul Williams. So they go around Mark Sykes, go round the outside of the LMP2 car and head on towards what is the Wellington straight. Definitely quite a bit of intersection between the LMP2s and the LMDH Silvers, and it's causing a little bit of challenge. As meanwhile, Rafael DeSantis here battling for what is P5 in the LMDH Gold class versus Magna Yonland. And Yonland there holds the inside, coming out to the long right of Lovefield and onwards towards Woodcott and then into the Cops they go. And DeSantis gets it done there on the outside line and picks up another place with DRS Esport as he continues on his way, albeit that we do see for a brief moment what was, by the looks of things, Benjamin McCluskey fading in and out of visibility, but things seem to have calmed down as they make their way into the next sequence of corners. But as they come on through here, Callum Jenkins now trying to pick his way around the outside. Kevin Stringer does so successfully there as he clears the LMP2 leader, does the LMDH Silver leader. But meanwhile, further back, we do look to Jordan Baywa here, who tries to go on the offensive leader, GT3 bronze class. Now jumping on board here with the privateer. He's gained ground early as we're hearing that Daniel Stimon has had to retire early due to issues with the cars. We understand it. We're not 100% certain of that, but we can see that there is a retirement for Stimon, and now it's down to 3 drivers in the GT3 bronze class. But Baywa here keeping close to Almklop as they make the way out of Cops and now into Baggins into Beckett. The 2 Ferrari drivers here going toe-to-toe in identical machinery. It will come down to the individual driver, and as they make the way through the left into right, well, I think right now Baywa having to just deal with a little bit of dirt here, unsettling the front end of the car. You can see some understeer creeping in as he broke his way down through 12 into 13, and coming out of Chapel, that gap has actually opened up a little bit in the toe. He'll get closer, but nowhere near close enough. Meanwhile, a little bit further in front, we see Stefan Albanese up the inside there. Ben Bennyworth taking what is P6 of the GT3 Silver class of his rival, as meanwhile Chris Daines here trying to find his way on past some more of the GT3 Silvers. Espresso Rian there, the Team Slow-Mo leftovers trying to hold off Tom Bingham behind and doing so successfully, albeit I think aided a little bit by the LMDH Gold driver coming on through, and therefore the elbows coming on out between them all. But as they make their way down towards turn number 1, you can see there Dean Fairclough make his way up the inside out club corner versus Baywa as they make their way into turn 1. And as they come through the right hand, and now will the Rocket Racing Stars driver here definitely trying to make a lot of lost ground after a difficult start to his race. We saw him drop to the back of the field, and now he's ridden on that recovery drive as he sends it on the inside there of Club, who sees it coming, gives him the room. Of course, the GT3 Gold driver, the GT3 Bronze leader, not battling in the same race per se, but as they make the way out of turn at number 14 onto Aintree at 5, we're right now making the way all the way down at the Wellington straight. We did say turn 14, then we meant turn 4, whereas he comes royal down right now. Feckel's got a long way to go, but he's got a lot of time available to him as we clear the first 5 minutes of the hour. But as he heads in towards the next corner, we look back up to here, the leaders here of the LMDH Gold class, and Craig Jones, the SCCR Sim Sports driver right now, between a rock and a hard place. He's got Gaz Williams trying to break away in front of him. Meanwhile, he's got Benjamin McCluskey behind as the two Next Gen Racing Purple teammates here find themselves trying to sandwich the number 88 car. The thing about Craig Jones is he's dogged and Brazilian when he comes to slowers like this, and we're looking right now to run to a predetermined pace and try to keep one of them behind and keep sight of the others. He makes his way into the next sequence of corners with Rafael Dos Santos close, unless he's just gone purple, albeit only what is 3 laps in, but really setting the pace here. And Dos Santos at a 43.41, a 10 faster than the next fastest driver, Gaz Williams, and definitely making himself felt early on in today's proceedings as he heads out of Aintree and down the Wellington straight once again. But as he heads on down, we look to Russell Fowler here, who after a difficult start to his day in the sprint, the Performance Elite Esports driver leading the GT3 Gold class. He comes on down the Vale, and as we ride aboard and look back here from the Britain's car, we can see there that is Ole Martin Muir behind him, and there's Adam Delmont staying close as they all come through, left into right through 16, 17, and into club corner they go. And the problem with this Mercedes is, we talked about it earlier, it is very prone to some understeer at high speed and medium speed and oversteer at very low speed. But the thing it has going for it, and this is what will frustrate everybody behind, is it is a very fast car out of the blocks on the acceleration stage, and therefore right now if he could just simply nail these corners as he would naturally do, he could cause the rest of the field to bunch up behind. You can see that Delmont taking a little peek versus Muir because they made the way through 1 into 2 and then breaking into Village. But as they come out of Village and the loop, out of 4 and up towards Aintree they go once again. This is when the Mercedes really shines. It just hammers these straights, and as they make the way on down towards the next braking zone, it's a long run here, and I think everybody behind now has to think about fuel saving. As Gavin Garner here looks up the inside of everything extends Bob to the right, and as they make the way into left hand, he gains another place here, does Gardner, and the Verano Motorsport driver capitalising on the gold train here as he comes on through Luffield corner and on towards Cops once again. As they make the way on out, the challenge here for all of them is in this quick succession, they've got to decide when it's right to attack and when it's right to simply stay put and do some fuel saving, or instead go on the defensive posture. Meanwhile, one driver will need to go defensive. Paul Scott there is on the outside, whereas they make the way into Cops corner here. Bas Beecher up the inside. He takes the lead of the GT3 Silver class, and for Beecher that could be a critical move as he runs a little bit wide there, but I don't think it's going to be a slowdown in earnest as he makes his way into Baggett, into Beckett. Meanwhile, third behind Stefan Albanese here, now find Dean Fairclough on his inside as they come on down. They're going to go too wide and Fairclough gets it done. Albanese, they're letting it go, and I think playing the safety card here for the simple reason, does not want to lose an opportunity when he's only 4 seconds off of the GT3 Silver leader of Bas Beecher, who is up the road by 4 more places. But as they make the way onto the back straight here, you can see that right now Rian having to deal with Fairclough coming up his inside. I think the Team Slower leftovers driver will not contest this either, although he's going to stay around the outside. And meanwhile, further back, we can see here Ingar Almclub, the Team Slower leftovers driver, battling with Baywo, goes around the outside there at turn at number 15. He's still tucked in, but it does look as though Baywo getting the move done there around the outside and having so much confidence as he defends it to 16. Almclub goes back to the inside. It's going to be a cutback all the way round. Almclub may have this, however, because he's got a really solid run, and Baywo with contact there, and the car's knocked, but as he brings it back together, it was always going to get very tight there coming into club corner, but Baywo being shown the measure there of what Almclub's able to do. I don't think they would have appreciated the contact either of them, but brilliant racing between the two of them up until that point, and Baywo not losing too much time, only what was in the end 1.5 seconds as he goes hunting once more. But you have to wonder whether he's lost a little bit of straight line speed with that knock to the front side of the car. On the left hand side of his car, he will have a little bit of aero damage, and it may just hurt him in the long run. Meanwhile, looking back up towards the GT3 Gold class, Stefan Vettel's up the inside there. Eric Benson makes the move there for Racing Team Astra as they make the way through the right hander of turn number 7. But Benson very close here to the back of the South African. You can see where they exchange places. It has given Essen in front a 1 second advantage now that he can try and use to get a bit of breathing room. But as they make the way towards the next corner, meanwhile, Espresso Rian here battling with Stefan Albanese on the exit of turn 7. Albanese trying to carry the speed round. And the DRS Esports driver there moves up into P4 in the GT3 Silver class. His next tyre will be Tom Bingham there, the Performance Link Esports Porsche. You just saw go through the camera shot as they make the way to Cops Bend. as they come through the right-hander here. Meanwhile, a little bit further up the road, looking back up to our LMDH leaders here, the LMDH Gold class. What we see there's a retirement for Chris Daines, unfortunately, after that incident early on in the race. We will be getting a replay of that very shortly coming up, but meanwhile, Craig Jones is still falling back a little bit over Gaz Williams, the class leader, and Benjamin McCluskey here is staying close and really starting to put some pressure on the SCCR Sim Sports driver. Whilst we do have a brief breather, we're going to show you what happened to Chris Daines on the opening lap. This is in the run through 6 into 7, and as he came onto the brakes here for the right hand, and the car just snapped to him there, glided onto the gravel and then knocked to the barrier. And well, for the Brano Motorsport driver, that was the story, because I think after that it had all just fallen apart, and well, coming into the pits and then re-emerging, I think with the race time they've lost, they decided to retire the car. But as we do return to live pictures now, we're also hearing that Mark Arrowsmith had a difficult day to his race, and in fact Chris Daines did have another off track after re-emerging from the pits, and as a result, therefore, he's decided to retire, which is understandable given how much the car would be off the pace at that point in how many laps down. But still, he's got plenty more rounds to go, there's no question about it. But meanwhile, we look back here to the live pictures with Rafael Dos Santos continues to try and chase down Benjamin McCluskey, and with the overlap now between the LMDHs and the GT3s, as well noticed there by Sir Bottlejob in the YouTube chat, this is where we see the first test of patience and also the strategy for our drivers. Craig Jones goes a very long way round there, Aintree corner, having to run a long way off the circuit. And I think there might have been a small altercation between itself and perhaps the GT3 that led to that, but they managed to safely bring themselves back onto the circuit. But as we ride aboard the gearbox here, we can see behind that is Benjamin McCluskey and also Rafael Dos Santos not too far behind, but Rafael Dos Santos takes a peek over the back of McCluskey there as they make the way on around the GT3 Stefan Albanese, and as they head up towards Cops Bend. Will Jones is going to be safe, but will McCluskey be safe? That's the question as they come through the corner. Gee whiz, and almost taking the camera completely off the car there as they made their way through turn number 9. I believe I had to really censor myself there because I wanted to say something else, albeit it would have been blasphemous in the United Kingdom. And as they make their way down through Maggots into Beckett's right now, Jones definitely with that slow moment there, having to deal with the GT3 in front of him. Will Rafael Dos Santos over the back as McCluskey being passed, and now as they make the way up towards what will be turn number 15, Dos Santos looks around the outside, and Jones is going defensive. But what he's going to do is get Dos Santos to go all the way around Baz Meacham, but will he be able to, as Meacham's on the racing line, and Dos Santos in the end plays his cards right, and Dos Santos gains 2 places for the price of 1 lap and dealing with the GT3 traffic. And that is how you use the slower class, the car in front of you, in order to pin your rivals into a position on the circuit. As he goes on around the outside there of Lukaku, who almost loses it there on corner exit of Club Corner. But the NVH is absolutely hustling right now and showing no signs of slowing down. Meanwhile, looking up the front here to the GT3 Gold class, this is where it's all going to get very tasteful. As we can see, Johan Essen being passed to the inside by Stefan Vessels into Village Corner, and as they come on through, the LMDH is here all intersect, and it gets so tricky at this point onwards, because now our GT3 drivers are all battling one another for the top 5 of the GT3 Gold class. We've got the LMDH swinging to the inside. It is all over the place as they make their way down towards turn number 6. Onto the brakes they go, and as they come on through here, Weston now has to give a bit of space to Wes McCluskey, who comes roaring on through for a storm. But meanwhile, we see that Gaz Williams losing out in the run through left field corner, and Rafael Dos Santos just simply goes round the outside and takes the lead of the LMDH Gold class in this feature race. And now Gaz Williams is going to try and come back as soon as possible. As they make the way through Cops Bend here and roll on down, well, Williams will not be too pleased about how that played out and what exactly happened. We take a look back. Now we can see here as they broke their way down to turn number 6, Gaz Williams initially gets a good run, but look how he gets boxed in there behind what was only Martin Muir, and in the end he's had to lift off the throttle, and Dos Santos, who had a poor run into 6, found his way back onto the speed on the outside of 7, and Williams just lost out completely there. And well, that will be definitely very frustrating for the Next Gen Racing Purple drive, but there's a long way to go, and of course the shoe could be on the other foot, as the proverb says, the next time they come round to hit the GT3 traffic. But as they come on down here towards turn 16 and 17, that's been our first taste of all the classes interlocking against one another. And right now Jamie Dory here back in P6 in the LMDH Gold class, with P7 overall, will find his way on past there what is Mark Baker, gets the move done, and now could go chasing after Yonland as they make their way through 16 and 17. But as they come on through the left into right and roar their way on through to the next lap, we we do look from them to Callum Jenkins a little bit further back. The privateer here, third place in the LMDH Silver class, who continues to chase after Jochen Seeger as they make their way respectively through the GT3 classes, coming on through the GT3 Silver leaders and heading in towards the GT3 Gold shortly. And well, of course, our GT3 Gold class will have one man they've got to be worried about coming on through, and that is Deegan Fairclough. You can see there in the Rocket Racing Stars Audi LMS GT3 that's behind Callum Jenkins, but he's still got an advantage of what is 2 seconds to close down before he finds himself battling with Magnus Fluttum, the Akeka, as they make the way on through Aintree Corner. As they all get themselves set in here, it does seem to calm down for a brief moment, albeit for Jenkins, as he finds himself there on the racing line, trying to find his way on through. But meanwhile, Adam Delmont here being hounded by Johan Ersson as they make their way out of Luffield Bennett turn number 7 and onwards Woodcourt, and then towards what is their Cops in turn number 9. But the challenge will be for Delmont as he comes on through here. Does he look forward or does he look backwards? And I think right now for Delmont, he's got to really be looking backwards to his side, because I think he really is starting to lose time on what his vessel's there, and instead he needs to put the stake in the ground with holding of Ersson. But he will have aiding him here the LMDH Silver's coming on through and making it a bit trickier, but Delmont just about gets himself covered off there before Jenkins is able to think about coming on through, and that's going to cost Ersson a little bit of time as they come off of Maggots into Beckett's and make their way out of Chapel now as they head on down towards the turn 15 right-hander now as they come roaring on through here. Meanwhile, Frederick Stensport Duray making his way up to speed. He's got Paul Williams and Mark Sykes coming through. Mark Sykes, the LMP2 third place driver there, will just sweeping his way up the inside, albeit they're all overlapping at the moment in terms of the classes. And I think we'll see things start to settle down just a little bit more come the end of this lap, going on to the next one, because most of the G3 Gold pack has now been cleared by the MDHs, and it's the LMP2s who just need to find their way on through. But as they make the way on through, we look to Kevin Stringer here, your LMP2 leader, who right now running a very strong run of form and not looking back at all as he comes up behind Jordan Baywa and looks around the outside here in the run down to turn 16. Now, there was a mention in the YouTube chat from Sir Bolt Job about Paul Scott potentially being in a bit of contact with one of the prototypes. We'll take a look back at that shortly. But meanwhile, there's contact between Stefan Vessels and Adam Delmont, and in the end, also what is there? I believe that's Ole Martin Mjork, the initial contact between Vessels and Mjork, who came together, and Adam Delmont coming into the scene of the incident and adding to it. And well, with the collateral damage added, we can see here it's really shaking up the order as Vessels then goes around again on the exit of the loop as he tries to get himself back up to speed. Well, this is a huge opportunity as Eric Benson here makes it 3 wide versus Delmont and Ersson. As Ersson on the outside, Benson up the inside, he does a 2-for-1 special into turn 6. They make the way through, and now Ersson here having to defend versus Gavin Gardner, and it looks like the cork's been pulled out of the bottle, and now everybody's going frantic in the GT3 Gold class, trying to fight their way up into the top 3 positions as they make the way through Woodcourt Corner. However, Gardner's good made to go around the outside by Johan Ersson, who rolls the inside line. It's good battle on the brakes here. The Audi very strong in the corners at Silverstone, and as they come off the apex curve at Cops Corner, Ersson stems the flow, but now it's a Duray to try and make the move and return. Going to Maggots into Beckett's, onto the brakes they go, but he has to settle in. He's got Deegan Fairclough behind him as well, so the Rocket Racing Stars driver, it's right there now trying to pick his way on through as they make the way through Beckett's and onto Chapel. It's a long run now down the hanger straight, and could we see a potential move coming shortly? As we can see, Fairclough then looking all up the inside in the long run. He's got a way to go yet. Meanwhile, Benson having to fend off the flying Ferrari of Wes Delmont as they come through the right-hander, and as they make the way on out, we can see it there. Deegan Fairclough going up the inside of Durant and getting it done. Now as they make the way into the braking zone, well, Delmont pits. I think he's decided to go early with some damage to the car as well. Meanwhile, Fairclough looks up the inside at Gardner, and Gardner does not give in there as a little bit of elbows out racing continues its way through Club Corner and onto next lap. And as they come across the timeline, well, the Rocket Racing Stars driver looks up the inside here versus Gardner, and I think Gardner may not have an answer for this as Fairclough goes on through and takes P4. We've got a car off, and that is Johan Ersson, who's gone completely sideways into turn 1. The Audi has lifted up there on the rear end, and it's sent him backwards through the order to P7, and well, with the space of what is effectively 1 lap complete, Deegan Fairclough has gone from P7 in class at the G3 Golds all the way up to P3 and is continuing. Meanwhile, in the LMDH Gold class here, well, we can see Benjamin McCluskey ahead of Rafael dos Santos getting the move done in the run out of what's Beckett's down. I think that was more than meets the eye with regards to how that played out. I think Santos may have been caught up a little bit in the run through the high-speed section, but as they make the way through, we firstly take a look back to what happened to Stefan Vessels and Ole Martin Mjork. was they made their way down towards turn number 3. Onto the brakes they went. Vessel's looking up the inside there. All speed, all in on the brakes. And just the smallest attacks between the term. Adam Delman being caught up there. Muir having to park the car. Vessel's having to turn the car around gradually. And that's how it unfolded, I think. Just a bit of miscommunication in terms of that battle into turn 3. Vessel's coming in hot on the inside. And Muir just turning in a little bit. Expected that he was going to be clear on the inside. But with them having their incident, we also take a look back to what happened to Paul Scott a bit earlier on lap number 6 of his race. This was for the GT3 Silver driver here, who was battling hard for position, made his way into what was Maggotts there, contact with one of the LMDHs, and that's damaged the car, and for Paul Scott into the wall there, and I think the steering had gone after that initial contact on the front steering suspension rack, and as a result, well, Next Gen Racing Orange driver having a difficult moment and a difficult way to really wrap up that portion of his race. He's back out on circuit, but with the damage on the car right now, it is going to be a recovery race all the way through. And, well, as we do look back to live pictures now, we continue to watch Benjamin McCluskey trying to hold off Rafael DeSantis for P2 in the LMDH Gold class, and overall, as they come on through it, down through Maggotts, charging into Beckett's once again, they find themselves there with Elwyn Sykes for a little bit of traffic, but Elwyn Sykes stays well clear, and we jump aboard here with the DRS eSport driver. Now DeSantis at this point again really having to make a call here in terms of, does he push it hard, or does he opt instead to play it safe and just run in the draft to do some fuel saving? Keep in mind, of course, that Gaz Williams is only 2.5 seconds up the road from these guys, so therefore he's not really out of arm's reach. He is well and truly naturally within reach in terms of strategy here, and it only takes a little bit of traffic when they overlap with the GT3s next time to completely remove that 2.5 second gap from the race. Now as they come through turn number 18 through Club Corner onto the next lap, DeSantis here definitely just playing the long game, I would reckon, and staying close to his rival but not trying to push it too hard. He'll wait for those opportunities. You see they're down on the inside of turn 2 in the GT3 Gold Ferrari, and this is where DeSantis will close up as they both navigate their way through Village Corner into the loop they go. And well, with McCluskey going a little bit deep there and had to fight with the car, DeSantis has got all the run he needs now as they make their way through Aintree, deploying that battery. Both drivers will be giving it all the energy they've got. DeSantis with the overspeed here from the toe, who's in 1.5 tenths range, but he's just not close enough to try and force the issue. Instead, McCluskey goes slightly defensively there. DeSantis goes for a later apex. He's going to try to set up the run, coming out of left field at turn number 8 and head all the way through. In fact, coming out of turn number 7 and heading up towards 8 at Woodcock Corner, will run a bit wide there, and he resets the gap as they make their way onto the next lap. As they roll the way on through, Dean Fairclough here looking at around the outside. Oh, goodness me! And we was trying to go for the dummy, and well, that did have shades of what was Nigel Mansell versus PK all the way back through the years. But there for the Rocket Racing Stars drive, that contact has completely undone what he was able to achieve. And for Eric Benson, will be lifted up in the air for a brief moment. The team slow-mo driver is going to have to limp to the pit, and well, what was looking to be another overtake go right, it's gone so horribly wrong for the pair. And well, I think for Benson it's going to be a huge amount of damage on the rear of the car, and that may just put him a long way out of the running order. But with drivers here being involved in instance, we look back to that battle for P2 in the LMDHs and overall. And McCluskey here as they come through at turn 16 to 17, going deep, and it does look as though McCluskey's struggling a little bit at the moment when it comes to braking into the heavy braking zones. Albeit there's not too many. I think those front brakes right now are really on edge of locking up, as we can see as they go on to the next lap. Well, right now DeSantis making another cut back there. McCluskey definitely looking vulnerable from corner to corner as they come into turn number 3, having to go defensive as they roll out the village and onwards towards the loop. And I think this is a sign of something to come, for the simple reason McCluskey just does not seem to have an answer to keep Rafael DeSantis well enough away to feel safer. Instead, he's having to do everything in his power to defend, as we're hearing that Callum Jenkins has had to be towed to the pits due to an incident. We're not quite sure what exactly's happened, and also Stefan Albanese has had to be towed as well. McCluskey looking to stay for a brief moment, so we can take a quick look back on what exactly had happened to Stefan Albanese. Well, Albanese going round there at what was Cops Corner as he rejoined. Oh, goodness me, and Callum Jenkins comes on through, and for Jenkins, a huge knock to the car, and well, the MB sent one way and then to the barrier on the other side. And well, I don't think for Jenkins, he knew there was a car there, and in the end it's not worked out for either Albanese or Callum Jenkins whatsoever. And that's two more drivers who've definitely fallen foul here today at Silverstone. But returning to the live pictures, we have had a considerable number of retirements so far, but we've still got plenty of drivers out of the circuit battling hard. And well, it's not just McCluskey versus DeSantis. In fact, Benjamin McCluskey's got back ahead of DeSantis earlier on, and DeSantis still trying to hold on to the back of it and try and make the move. We also do have Jamie Dory a bit further back, battling with Magna Jonlund as they make the way down through 12 and 13, and into Chapel at 14 they go, as we're hearing that Tom Bingham's into the pit lane from the GT3 Silver lead. We have got some pit stops shaping up, as we see here Jamie Dory trying to look around the outside, and Jonlund as they head into turn 15, and Jamie Dory going all the way around the outside. Jonlund's going to defend the inside here, give his rival the space, but I think being a bit obliging there as they make the way on down through the Vale, and as they head onto the brakes to turn number 16, Jamie Dory gets the move done. Meanwhile, McCluskey still fended off DeSantis for the time being, but DeSantis continues to look ever closer and threatening as he looks up the inside there into Luke, and now this will be a drag race out the corner. They're side by side on corner exit, give one another space, they both straighten up, and as they make their way through Aintree, well, McCluskey's on the racing line, but the problem for him is he's got traffic in front. He just about manages to creep ahead there of Ellen Martin Mjork in the GT3, and as they make their way on through, I think DeSantis was hoping that McCluskey would have to back out there as he was able to get alongside and therefore force him to be pulled in behind Mjork, but in the end it's not worked out. Instead, McCluskey holds the position once more, but these two are battling hard right now. On the last lap they cost one another 2 seconds almost on race leader Gaz Williams, and Williams is starting to reopen the gap, albeit his gap is being handicapped somewhat by the fact that he is having to deal with the GT3 traffic as well, and it's not falling favourably. So Gaz Williams is being kept within arm's reach at the moment, but for how long, of course, before he can really start to open up a lead. Now as McCluskey here right now is continuing to hold off DeSantis as they come up behind the GT3 there, that's Sensible DeRay, and they've made their way onto the hangar straight. Well, DeSantis not close enough initially to capitalise, but now he will be as he gets within a 10 as they get ready to break into the next corner, but it's not a long enough run here, and as a result, now as they make their way on around another GT3 there, and that's Gavin Collar, P2 in the GT3 Gold class, while GT3s are starting to peel their way into the pit lane. But meanwhile, we see here McCluskey holding position and making sure that DeSantis is once again frustrated, but for how long, of course, before there's a potential look towards strategy as they go around Paul Scott there. They part the Caesar and in reverse. Moses on the GT3 Silver Droves not happy with the contact from McCluskey, but as they make their way through turn number 1, DeSantis is going to look for, he swings slightly to the outside there, looking potentially to the inside of the break, he can't quite find it. Meanwhile, Mark Baker chased after Jochen Seeger here for the lead of the LMDH Silver class. In fact, I believe Jochen Seeger's just found his way on past Mark Baker. The two teammates, they're swapping positions going into the exit of turn number 15, and as they make the way through Club Corner, we've got all of our GT3s effectively in the pit lane right now. It is GT3 season down in the pit lane. You can see there, GT3 Gold leader Russell Fowler leaving his pit box, albeit he's got Gavin Gardner creeping away as well, and Fowler not too far ahead at this time as they all make their way out of their pit boxes to go race into the end of this race. And the Thornton Esports driver will know if he can bring home the winning class today, it will be a huge achievement given the pace and ferocity of the class as a whole. But as Adam Delman comes on through here, well, Delman has taken one pit stop already due to damage on the car, but it was within undercut territory, and he's jumped back out in P4, albeit behind Dean Fairclaw, but ahead of Fred Extensible DeRay, so he's charging after what is potentially a P4 here today, presuming that the drivers in front of him do not end up falling off circuit at any point of being involved in the incident, but it's all to play for here, and Adam Delman definitely using that forced pit stop from the damage early on to his advantage in order to swap up the strategy. But as we look here to Ingar Almglov, who makes his way out of the pit lane, the G3 Bronze P2 driver makes his way towards the braking zone and looking comfortable right now for second place in class. Meanwhile, we look back to the battle of P2 in the GT3, in fact P3 in the P2 in the GT3 Gold class. We were right the first time, and Deegan Fairclough there up the inside from Woodcock Corner after the run out of Lovefield, and as they make their way into Cops Bend here, Garner tucks in behind. I don't think there's any response that the Rhino Motorsport driver can offer at this time, except to stay there and try to use Fairclough to catch up to the back of Fowler as they make their way onwards towards the remainder of this lap. As they come roaring on through the corners here, both drivers doing everything they can right now to push it to the limit, and it's the same that can be said for Tom Bingham here, who continues to hound and hustle that Baz Meacham as they make the way through Maggots into Beckett's in the battle for the lead of the GT3 Silver class. These two the best part of 9 seconds clear of third place driver in class of Espresso Rian, who in turn right now is trying to hold off Ben Bennyworth. So all these battles are coming together somewhat for the podiums of the GT3 classes, albeit not when they're being interrupted by the LMDHs trying to muscle the way on through. But as we see here, Bingham's still behind. Well, the challenge he's got is in the push. He's got all the speed in the corners, but the one thing he lacks on the straights is top end speed. And as they come out of 15, down from the Vale, and into a 16-17, Bingham's going to look for it here, trying to get past Beechham's out outbrake himself, but in the end they both make the corner naturally, and as they come through turn number 17, Meacham definitely feeling the pressure here as they make their way onto what for them is lap number 15 under race conditions. Now charging on through and on to the next lap. The challenge for the Welshman here at Meacham is, can he continue to thwart the corner speed of the Porsche 911? If he can do, then he will be safe for the majority of the lap. If he can't, however, then he will find himself gradually being under that pressure and having to go too wide into a number of corners, such in this opening sector. The opening 4 corners are really where the Porsche can shine, given its rotation and its ability to accelerate very nicely up through the gearbox. Meanwhile, the BMW focus more on that balancing characteristics, a bit more top end speed, but also high stability as well, which means as the tyres wear down, you'd imagine the BMW M4 will be much more comfortable at that point in the race. But as they make their way down the Wellington straight, no change this time around, as we're hearing that Adam Delman's been involved in a slight incident that's dropped him down a P6 in the GT3 Gold class. We'll take a look at that very shortly, but as we continue to watch here, Meacham versus Bingham. Bingham's close, but he's not quite found that final 5% to be able to get alongside and contest the move. As they make their way up towards the next single scores, we looked at Adam Delman, who's just up the road in fact from them, and as they make their way through and into a Copse corner, he's got the pressure of only Martin York behind as they head onwards towards Maggots into Beckett's, and Will Delman definitely having an incident which has dropped him out of the hunt for P5 at the moment. In fact, he's running P4 at one point, and in fact we get an opportunity to take a look back. Well, this is in the run down towards turn number 3, under braking here. I think he's going to lose the rear of the car potentially. In fact, the rear just slightly snaps loose, and as he gets turned around there, due to the momentum and the impetus of the car, pulls off the racing line and has to let whereas Magnus Fullerton Bikeka and also Fred Extensible DeRay coming through, and then finds himself in the battle of Ole and Martin Muir. As we return to the live pictures here, the racing continues, and at the front of the GT3 Goldfield, of course, Russell Fowler, the performance-ing esports driver, trying to mimic what Tom Bingham's trying to achieve in the GT3 Silver class, but the problem is now behind him, he's got Deegan Fairclough, as they make their way into turn 1. I think the Audi driver here is going to be a question of when, not if he can look for the space to make a move, but can Fowler find a way to make that Mercedes wide, as they head into Village? Not at the moment. It looks like Fairclough's not being able to go for the move. Instead, he's sizing it up for the next sequence of corners instead, as they come out of the loop and onwards towards Aintree. We've had a change of position for P2 and the LMDH Gold class. In fact, as we briefly cut to this, and this is side by side between McCluskey and Rafael DeSantis coming through turns 16, 17, 18, and on to the next lap they go as the sun comes out briefly, and McCluskey holds the inside there, gets the move back for P2, but now he's got all the work to do into Village corner, as it does look as though DeSantis not able to find his way on through again this time, instead has to wait his turn. But of course, we were only moments ago looking at the battle for the GT3 class lead in terms of the overall and the gold category, and we can tell you that Russell Fowler's still holding on to the lead of the class as they make their way through Woodcote at turn 8 and down towards Copse at 9. But as they get ready to go, you can see Gavin Gone there only 2 seconds back and staying with these guys as they make their way onto the second half of the lap. And it does look as though there Fowler has everything set up in terms of the straights. It's all in the corners, the medium and high speed corners. That is where Fairclough is just so strong in the Rocket Racers machine. But as they make the way down through turn number 13, through Maggots and onwards through Beckett's, we should say, and onwards towards Chapel, they roar the way on down the back straight now, and as they get ready to battle into the next corner, the Mercedes is just able to open up the gap. But meanwhile, a bit further back, we see Baz Beecham here, but what about Fred Extensible at DeRay? In fact, we are hearing that DeRay has been involved in a major moment coming out of Copse corner and has dropped all the way back to P7 in the GT3 Gold class, and he's in fact let the top 2 of the GT3 Silver class off road, as they has the LMDH to contest with, and was the LMDH battle for P2 comes off road. McCluskey and DeSantis coming through 15. McCluskey there on the outside line, goes a little bit wide. DeSantis tries to look around the outside now into turn number 16. He's going to bat on the brakes here, but DeSantis running out a little bit of track space there as they come through 16 to 17, and again they stay as they are, as we see that Stensible DeRay comes into the pit lane with the damage on the car from the spin, coming out of what we believe was Copse corner. But as this battle rages on here, meanwhile, just up the road from it, there's the battle for the lead of the GT3 Gold class starting to kick off as well, as they get ready to battle into Village corner. It's only going to be a one-wide line, however, given the fact they do have the GT3 Silver leader on their outside. But meanwhile, Russell Fowler here battling with Deegan Fairclough as they make their way into turn number 6. Fairclough on the inside, Fowler on the outside. It's a battle on the anchors, and Fairclough's going to come through there, carry the speed in the Audi R8 and get the job done there comfortably as they make the way to turn number 7, and the Rocket Racing Stars driver gets the move into lead now. He's going to get a move on to try and break away. There's no question about it. As meanwhile, Gavin Gardner close up behind, giving the battle in And I think he'll feel as though that he can find a way to also get into the hunt here for his P2 and gain some major points here at Silverstone in the feature. But as he comes through the right hand, to catch Fowler's one thing, to pass him, however, is another. And as they get set to go on to lap after this lap, he'll be very wary of the fact that he's got the time to play with, but he'll want to try and analyse exactly where he can pounce. Meanwhile, speaking of pouncing here, it's going to be Benjamin McCluskey, and again, DeSantis staying close. But as they make the way on through the next sequence of corners, we ride on board here with the Italian, the DRS eSport driver of DeSantis, doing everything to stay close as they make the way through Chapel. Now, it's going to be the flat-out run here. You can see he's staying so close every time they come onto the sequence. There's not enough room here really to look up the inside. He'll look around the outside again. He's going to try and hang it all the way round, and it looks like it's going to work this time as McCluskey there just does not have enough to respond. And Rafael DeSantis takes P2 in the LMDH Gold class, flashing the lights there to Dean Fairclough to say, I'm coming through, and it's a big hit to the suspension there as he comes through the apex to turn 16. I think the Italian right now has got to be mindful of the fact he won't want to have too many big knocks like that, otherwise he'll lose on out. Meanwhile, speaking of losing on out, that is Dean Fairclough's dropped back to P3 in the GT3 Gold class, and Russell Fowler leads the class once again. Well, what on earth has happened there? Oh, goodness me! And it's McCluskey and Fowler coming together. Fowler tries to stop the car and he just avoids the wall. But with that and that contact there, what a save from Fowler. It must be said that could have been far closer to tears, but he just avoided the wall. And we'll have a look to McCluskey shortly. But we can see that McCluskey, in fact, trying to get himself back up to speed. But Gavin Gardner now leads in the GT3 Gold class. But with 25 minutes to go, he's got Dean Fairclough right behind him. And well, the problem is, once he's behind you, there's only one thing that's going to happen. He's going to try to find a way past you. As right now, the Briton from Verano Motorsport does everything to try to hold on to the position, but he would have wanted Fowler there with him to aid him effectively in order to try and keep Fairclough behind and break away. As they head through Woodcott and on to Cop shortly. Well, Fairclough they're only 2 tenths back as they make their way towards the next attacking zone. And you can see McCluskey trying to pick his way on through, and in the end doing so as Fairclough returns to the racing line. They're mindful of the LMDH Gold driver trying to pick his way through, and as they make the way onwards towards the serpentine sequence here, well, Gardner will need to pick all the speed he can in order to try and keep that Audi at bay. We ride on board and look back here from the back of the Verano Motorsport Ferrari. You can just see as they come on through turn number 13, the Audi just able to close up off corner very rapidly indeed, able to carry that speed and get back to full throttle faster. But in return now, this is where the Ferrari does shine. It does have that straight line speed edge. They get ready to head into the next corner. Flash of lights there from the Audi as they make their way into the brakes. He goes up the inside of the Fairclough. Gardner on the outside here. He's going to try and carry all the speed round. Still a nose ahead as they make their way out to the corner. But as they make their way down towards turn number 16, Gardner defends the inside, comes off the centre of the road. Fairclough has to go to the outside. Looks at the cut back here, but no way through as Gardner keeps it creeping on the apex of 17. Into club they go. Fairclough up the inside. I think this might be it as they head up towards the timeline here. Fairclough on the inside now as they head towards turn number 1. Into the right hander they go. Gardner's going to try and hold it all the way around the houses into turn 2, but it does start to taper to 1 wide as they get ready for turn 2. And now Gardner will need to try and come back. There's Fairclough covers him off on the inside, run into Village Corner at 3. And as they exit on out, I think Gardner here may have just found the door firmly closed in front of him as they head on through the loop. Fairclough goes a little bit deep, and in fact this is the opportunity once again as they come on through. It's not over yet, in fact, as they make the way out of Aintree, and now the Ferrari again able to show the speed as they head on down towards turn number 6. As they get ready to battle once more, Fairclough cuts back to the inside. Oh, he tried this with Benson earlier, it didn't work out, but this time he does make the dummy work as he makes his way N6 into 7. He's got to go around the outside now to get it all done, but the problem is Gardner's there, and he's able to hold a nice tight inside line, get back on the power early, and he forces the Audi backwards to his inside hit, but they roll the way now. Brilliant racing between these two, absolutely non-stop. They head up towards Copse Corner at 9, and it's Fairclough on the inside this time. You see Fowler in the rear of the picture, looking on and getting ready to try and get into this hunt. The Fairclough gets ahead, and now with the limited run at 2 maggots, I think this will be where the door does get shut for the time being as they come on down and head into Vegas. As they make the way through the corner sequence here, Russell Fowler not too far behind, and we can see then the Mercedes, an absolute beast in terms of the front end lap machinery, and just right now trying to force its way through corner to corner here, and Fowler 4 seconds back, in fact, as they make the way onwards towards the hangar straight. Well, that gap has opened up, and in fact Flutter Bierkircher is closing up here by quite the margin. The Team Slomo leftovers driver really picking up the pieces as they head into turn number 15 in terms of lap time. That last lap gained 5 seconds over Fowler. I think that might have been Well, of course, there was the instant for Fowler, but I think also there might have been a little bit more to it in terms of just getting the car back to normal, in terms of getting the feel for the car once again after knocking some damage with it. But Bekeke is definitely trying to close up here for the podium today, given the fact we've got 21 minutes still to go, plus the final lap. Whilst all this has been happening, we do look to Kevin Stringer, your LMP2 leader now, as he makes his way down towards turn number 16, and onto the brakes he goes, and we're holding off Nigel Stock. But Nigel Stock never too far away and always looking threatening here. That's the key thing. The SCCR Simsports driver Stringer has to be wary of the fact that he's not in a comfort zone, and well, he'll want the win in the feature to offset what happened in the sprint. And well, that does sound as though we're on a little bit of a repeat or a deja vu, given that has been the story of his races so far, in terms of the sprints just have not gone his way for a given reason. But the feature is where he's been back on top and really showing the pace. But meanwhile, we have Russell Fowler here, who's got ahead of Deegan Fairclough in the run down towards turn of 16. It does look as though, well, I wonder if there was a bit of an off track for Fairclough, because it does seem as though he's dropped a long way back. And in fact, we can find out what exactly happened as we've got a replay coming up. Well, this was in the run through what was turn number 5 there, and well, the car straight lining on and going sideways and able to catch the car and whack to the wall, in fact, for the Rocket Racing Stars driver. And well, I think there might have been a little bit of off track before that, but either way, that knocks the wall wounding the Audi, and that's not the way number 87 driver wanted it to play out at all. And well, now it's all about damage limitation on the car, and can he bring that car on through to hold on to P3, if not go hunting after positions once again? As meanwhile, whilst he's trying to bring it back up to terms with regards to the racing, and you can see there Russell Fowler not too far away, only 4 attempts clear as they head on down. Also Magnus Flutton Bekeke there close up on this battle for the top 3, and I think he's got an opportunity here to find himself on that podium and firmly in control of P3, if not P2 as well, as they make their way towards the end of this lap. And will Fairclough to come into the pits? No, he will not. He stays out as they head down to the braking zone, and that is Craig Jones, the SCCR Simsport LMDH Gold driver, trying to pick his way on through the GT3s, getting himself into the medley here is the Briton, as they make the way around to complete the lap. And as he goes up the inside, with the 88 driver here giving all the space in the world to the GT3s, conscious of how much room they need. And meanwhile, Russell Fowler under pressure here, but look at Fairclough just going inside. They're carrying the speed in the Audi despite the shunt to the wall, and Russell Fowler falls back to P3. I think focusing on just delivering that spot on the podium, and conscious that he does have the rest of the GT3 Gold class gradually creeping up behind. But as they come on through at the loop and head on to Aintree, we do look from them to Eric Benson here, who right now in a slightly wounded front end on that Audi by the looks of things, chasing after what is there Ben Bennyworth for the battle for overall position of P23, albeit Bennyworth GT3 silver versus Benson GT3 gold. And well, this hasn't been Benson's race when it comes to repeating the heroics of the sprint with that win, but at the same time trying to recover as much as he can in terms of time and points lost at the moment. And as he makes way out the loop, they'll gain the place on Bennyworth if he's able to hold the inside through 6 and get the door shut. Behind them there's Paul Williams, second place in the LMDH silver class, but Benson there just no straight line speed on quarter exit, and mindful of the LMDH, and lets it go once again, lets Bennyworth go ahead. As they make their way to turn 6, we look back to Vaz Beecham here, who continues to have Tom Bingham behind him, and Bingham staying close as we jump aboard with the Performance Link Esports Porsche 911 GT3R, as he gets very close there, going through Cop's corner. And well, I think now starting to show the threat. Well, the threat's been building for some time, but he's showing the teeth, he's baring his fangs, and that Porsche again so strong from corner to corner. It's just the straight where it finds itself not quite there, and as they make the way through turn number 13, rolling the way on through the right-hander now, and not having the best of runs there, as we're hearing that Kevin String has been involved in an instant and has dropped out the lead of what is the LMP2 class. I believe that smoke we saw, that cloud only moments ago, may have been an after effect from where Stringer has had it go wrong in the run through Maggots into Maggots. We'll take a look back at that very shortly, because he's behind this battle right now. But as we watch Bingham here getting close on the XM15, Drake bringing it down through the bow, up the inside he goes. Can he get it done here for the lead of the GT3 silver class? We can see that Meacham going as deep as possible, brings it to the inside of 17. It's going to be side by side on the run, but Tom Bingham round the outside. Meacham there just does not have a response to the end, and Bingham takes the lead of the GT3 silver class with 17 minutes left on the clock, as they make the way into turn 1 once more, as they roll through Kevin String up the inside of them both there, and Bingham has to go a little bit deep, and he's got defended to 2 and 3 here, as we can also see Johan Essen, who's running P6 in the GT3 gold class. He wants a piece of the action. Meacham there having to defend on the inside. He doesn't want to lose sight of the GT3 silver leader, but he's going to have to, as Johan Essen from Team Slow-Mo simply says, I want to come on through. And as they make the way through Aintree, We can understand the 89 driver. He wants to go hunting after a top 5 in the GT3 Gold class that sits 8 seconds or so up the road. As they make the way down into turn number 6 here, Mads Beecham flashes his lights, not happy with how this has played out. There's no question about it. I think trying to say to Ayrton, look, I'm battling with this guy for the lead, do you mind? And as they make the way on through, meanwhile, in the pit lane, I can tell you that Rafael Dos Santos has just left the pit lane and has come back out your leader in the LMDH Gold class ahead of Gaz Williams. And in terms of the pass being made, that pass was, as we understand it, made in the pit lane. And, well, in the end, Dos Santos getting it done on the strategy and now trying to break away in the lead of this race with limited time remaining after taking this one pit stop for today. And can Gaz Williams bounce back here with a gap being 1.4 seconds as they charge up through for their second stint. But heading on down to turn number 6, Williams now I think will be dumbfounded a little bit with regards to how exactly that exchange has played on out, but still he's got time to go. And whilst we do have some time in between battles, we can take a look back at what happened to Kevin Stringer from the lead of the LMP2 class. Now making his way down through Maggots and into Beckett's, rolling through the left into right. I think there's going to be contact there with one of the cars. Oh, goodness me, and that is contact with, I believe, what was Jamie Dory that I may be mistaken, but I think it was Jamie Dory's NXTGEN Racing Orange LMDH Gold car coming on through there, and with the side swipe on the side of Kevin Stringer. Stringer being sent to the wall, and will Stringer turning the car back around, but the SCCR Sim Sports driver dropping a P2 at class, and he's still got the best part of what is 10 seconds to close down versus Nigel Stock to try and bring home the win in the feature here today. But it is a long way to go, but he is taking 1 second a lap out of Stringer, out of Stock we should say, is Kevin Stringer as the racing wears on. And given the amount of laps remaining, that 1 second, he may need it to become about 1.3 seconds, but he's almost there. He's having enough time to battle on the last lap as we see Gaz Williams have a brief lock-up under braking and losing time on Dos Santos, who is breaking away as they make the way onto another lap. Now as Dos Santos comes on through turn 1 and up towards 3, he goes. Meanwhile, we do cut back to the battle for the lead of the GT3 Gold class, and here is Gavin Gardner in the pristine Verano Motorsport Ferrari. And I say pristine because it's the one car we could argue inside the top 5 of the GT3 Gold class that has not seen even a bump or a scrape on the car compared to all the others who've had taps here, there and everywhere. But Gardner right now just playing it safe, and as he comes on through turn number 10, makes his way through Maggots into Beckett's here, we can see how behind very close, but not close enough to go on the offensive at the moment at 1.4 seconds, but looming in a threatening manner as they made the way through Chapel, heading on down the back straight. Well, Stringer's just going to come on through, so is Paul Williams there in the LMDH Silver class machine, and the GT3 drivers here finding that the traffic finds a bit of the right opportunity as they head on through. Meanwhile, further back, we can see there the Team Slow-Mo leftovers driver of Flutum Vikica chasing after Fowler as they make the way into turn 15 once more. And well, the pace is going the way of the Ferrari driver here as they make the way down towards turn at number 16. Johan Ersson behind, still battling here with the GT3 Silvers as the GT3 Gold driver. He wants to get on through. You can understand why, because he wants to go hunting after a GT3 Gold top 5. But he does pass Tom Bingham, and Baz Meacham is now only 1 second behind the pair here. So he's been given an opportunity to close back up, and this could work out quite nicely for Meacham, given the fact that now he'll have a clear run on his GT3 class rival in the win for this race all the way to the finish, because we do have some LMDHs coming on up, but at the same time there's no more real GT3 class cars in their proximity once we do see Ayrton presumably break away. But as they make the way on through, we look back to the GT3 Gold leader here of Gardner, who has the pressure of Fairclough once again as they head into turn 6. Well, Gardner's held him off for a long time so far, albeit in the end being passed. Fairclough in the end with that mistake, coming out of turn number 5, losing it all to the wall, but he's somehow fighting on in a car that has seen better days. And as they make the way out of turn number 7, we're hearing that Stefan Albanese has been involved in an incident which has dropped him down to P6 in the GT3 Silver class. We'll try and find out what exactly happened very shortly with regards to that, but we focus here for now on the battle between Gardner and Fairclough as they make their way through turn number 9 there, and not long remain this race now in terms of getting the move done. And well, the Rocket Racing Stars driver puts all the pressure on as we jump on board with the Audi driver. Coming on down through at turn 12 into 13, trying to size up the run here at 13, using more apex curve early there to lift the front right of the car and rotate it. And as they make the way down the back straight, you can see You can see it coming on through, but they've got no more LMDHs coming up behind them now, so it's going to be a fair battle in the run up towards the right-hander. And Vecco cuts it back to the inside, going all in on the brakes, going in hot there on the anchors, and Gardner holds it all the way round. There's a small tap between the two of them. Gardner there on the outside, not to be outdone, however, as they make the way into the next corner. It's going to be a battle on the anchors once more. Vecco trying to go outside to inside, Gardner out inside to outside, but as they make the way out 17, the Rocket Racing Stars Strike gets ahead, and Gardner right there with them as they head across the timeline onto the next lap. And now can the number 87 driver hold on to the lead for the remainder of this race, whereas they make their way through turn number 1. Definitely a car that has seen better days, as we said earlier, and I wonder if that damage will start to put the stress on that driver and car alike as they make their way through turn number 3. But as they head on out and into the loop, meanwhile, we look from them to the battle for P3 in the GT3 Gold class just behind, and you can see here Bianchecca holding on to the back of Fowler, as Russell Fowler right now really finds himself in a tricky situation, which is he's got the speed on the straights in that Mercedes, but with the damage that he picked up from that contact, which was depleted a little bit of that straight line speed, plus also the cornering disadvantage in the Mercedes compared to the Ferrari, well, has he got enough tyre left? That seems to be the one aspect where the Ferrari does have some challenges when it comes to tyre life, albeit rear tyres that Mercedes can light up quite easily, but right now Fowler does seem to be calm, cool and collected, holding firmly onto that P3 as he makes his way out to turn 7 and almost towards the old start finish straight as they head towards the second half of the lap. But charging on through there, down towards Copse Corner they go, making their way through the right-hander. Well, for Fowler, it's all going to be coming off apex here. Just how much speed can he hold and how much more can he build into the next sequence? And this is where he'll feel the pinch on the Mercedes. Of course, the AMG Evo just not able to rotate as well for his medium speed corners. You can see the difference in lines there. But interesting, Bianchecca actually back it off a little bit this time. And I think his goal here is to really get the run out of the corner and not be impacted by the NVH and Rafael DeSantis coming on through. And indeed, we've got a couple more making their way on through, including Mark Baker and Gaz Williams. And perhaps was hoping that Fowler would have to deal with them into turn number 15. But no way this time is there going to be any impediment. Although I say that, Fowler goes very deep there under braking into 15, and I think he's just feeling the pain on the car. And now Bianchecca's trying to go up the inside into turn 60. He's going to go under the brakes here. Fowler comes across. Bianchecca's not able to get down, and Fowler responds by parking on apex. And as they come off and onto turn 18, they roar through Club Corner to complete the lap. Fowler definitely now had to pull out every trick in the book in order to keep the flying Ferrari behind, because you can see there that right now the Team Slow-Mo driver definitely all over the back of the Forza League Esports Mercedes and picking and choosing exactly when he wants to pounce. But as they head in towards Village Corner, no way this time. Remember, they do have Ole Martin Muir, who is only the best part of what is their 3 seconds back and staying with them, if not lapping a little bit faster. So he'll be looking at this battle with eager eyes. Meanwhile, in the battle for the lead of the GT3 Silver class, we've got Johan Ersson going on around there, but Tom Bingham meanwhile holding on to the lead of the class versus Baz Meacham for now, but Meacham trying to come back at him left, right and centre as they make their way through turn 4 and onwards towards the Wellington straight they go, and Bingham here definitely not able to clear what is a very fast and menacing looking Meacham as they make their way down towards turn number 6. But as they head into the next braking zone, meanwhile, in terms of battles elsewhere at the front of the field, here is your GT3, your LMDH Gold leader, the DRS Esports driver Rafael DeSantis. He only has an advantage of 1.1 seconds over Gaz Williams at the moment. Williams does seem to be fighting back now in terms of lap time. They've also had a bit of traffic come their way, and DeSantis has not had the favourable run of that traffic. But as they make the way down the back straight here, you can definitely see how that gap has come down over the last 5 to 6 laps, and Williams now starting to really pick up the toe as they make the way on the long straights. But coming on through turn number 15, DeSantis here will take comfort in the fact that he does have track position, and also he does seem to have that edge when it comes to going tooth and nail with regards to battling with other drivers in the class. Now they come off this lap and onto the next one. DeSantis there taking a bit of the exit curve there, the sausage curve. Got to be careful of that, of course, because it raises the car, and if you get the wheel caught over the other side of the curve, it will drag the car completely off circuit and really damage the left side suspension. But DeSantis getting away with that one that time, but he wants to keep making that mistake. As meanwhile, we look back here to your GT3 bronze leader of Jordan Baybois, the 64 Ferrari driver here, the privateer. Frenchman is absolutely enjoying this race at the moment with a 7-second advantage over what is their Ingar Almklov, and Almklov at the rear of the picture, albeit you can't quite see him at the moment as he just makes his way on to the hangar straight. But Benoit chasing after Gold, driving the GT3 class of Frederic Stensvold-Duray, as Duray is trying to find his way past Bennyworth in comparison there as they make the way in towards the final 3 quarters of this lap. But it does look as though the 3 of them will stay as they are for the time being, but I think a change is coming in the cards shortly. As they head on to the next lap, we look back to the battle for the GT3 silver lead, and we'll bring him here doing everything right now, right, in order to hold off the M4 behind. But Meechan there still close. We right on board the gearbox here on the Porsche 911 GT3R, and as they head up towards turn number 6, Bingham gets a good run off the corner. Meechan only really now starting to gain the time in the toe, and I think that goes to show that Bingham really has put together those runs out of the corners, particularly medium speed and low speed, because he just has so much confidence in being able to get the power down, open up a bit of the speed advantage before we see the M4 of Meechan start to strike back at the top end. As they make the way through Woodcote and in towards Cox Corner they go. The gap open up slightly in the first half of the lap, down to 6 tenths of a second. We may see it swing the other way as they head towards the end of this lap, given the fact that Meechan has been very strong over the entirety of that like Bingham, and is finding those little bits of time. Both drivers here absolutely pushing it from corner to corner, straight to straight. There's nothing between them, and it could in the end just be one tiny mistake that is the difference compared to how they are going to finish if things were to finish as they currently stand. But as they make the way onwards towards the hangar straight, meanwhile we look to Frederic Stensvold-Duray here, who continues to chase after Ben Beddyworth, but he still has Benoit behind him as they make the way onwards towards turn number 10. And we'll hear the 3 drivers from 3 different GT3 classes. They're all vying for overall position, and it's a bit of a tricky one here because nobody gains anything technically points-wise when they make a pass, but at the same time as well, for Duray, he'll want to go hunting after Eric Benson, but Benson is the best part there of what is 14 seconds ahead of him. So right now, Duray's really just racing for overall GT3 position. Bennyworth at the same time won't want to lose out to a Gold driver. I think there'll be a little bit of pride there, given he's not got much else to race for at the moment. With the fact that Espresso Arena we see here is 8.5 seconds up the road, and here is Bennyworth by comparison. That gives you an idea of what 8.5 seconds is in the rundown Vale. And then we do have, of course, our bronze leader, Jordan Benoit, who is at the back of this group. And I think maybe he's just watching and waiting for an opportunity should the 2 drivers knock one another about. But as they head on to another lap, now only 4 minutes remaining plus the final lap of racing. And as we look back to Gavin Garner here, P2 in the GT3 Gold class, the Runner Motorsport driver. Well, he tried to hold off Deegan Fairclough as much as possible. You can see the Fairclough 2 seconds clear, and as they make the way into Copscourt, it does seem as though that gap now is stabilising in terms of it's opened up enough, and Fairclough nursing the car through to the very finish with him. Johan Essen into the pit lane for a late pit stop to do repair work to the car, as we're to understand it. But Gardner here, even though it's not a win, I think he can definitely treat this one as a huge result and effectively a win for him, given the fact that he's really had to deliver lap after lap and find a way to bring on home what has been a solid P2 to back up a great start to his day in the sprint. Russell Fowler, meanwhile, we still have a big question mark here for the Performance League esports driver. Can he keep the kicker behind him just a little bit longer? He's not got long left to go in this race. What for him is effectively including this lap, 3 laps to go, so 2 the next time round. But the problem is that Mercedes, for all the strength it's got on the straights, he does seem just to not have the run on the corners, and sometimes is looking vulnerable into these heavier braking zones, and that's the problem. But as we can see here, right now, Magna Yonland cutting his way between the 2 GT3 drivers, and in fact, for Bekeka, he's not really helped out his fellow Team Slow-Mo driver at all. If anything, he's actually really opened that gap up for him. Now he's doubled it almost, in fact, so they made the way on through, now up to just shy of 1 second as they head across the timeline. And now a bit of miscommunication between the 2 teammates as they make the way through turns 1 and 2. You can see Jamie Dory going around the outside there to inside, using the downforce of the LMDH to take the off-racing line approach and get through the traffic. But as they make the way into the loop here, well, where will the exchange be? As meanwhile, battle on here for P3 in the LMDH Gold class between Craig Jones, the SCCR Sim Sports driver, who gets ahead of Benjamin McCluskey, the Next Gen Racing Purple driver, as they make the way into Copse Corner. And as they make the way in, you can see their vessels turning on in, only to find 2 LMDHs there for the price of 1 corner. But Jones making a late move and getting it done versus McCluskey. How exactly did that happen, I hear you ask? When we take a look back, as I believe McCluskey may have actually run out of hybrid, given the fact he's already dropped to what is a whole 1.5 seconds behind Craig Jones in the space of a couple of corners. Well, here's the move that was made by Craig Jones. It was the run into turn 7, and McCluskey went deep, and Jones just simply said, don't mind if I do. And in fact, on the last lap, McCluskey was 2.5 seconds slower compared to Jones. I think for McCluskey, he's either he's running low on fuel, alternatively, he's just got no hybrid battery anymore to deploy, and that would explain it, because you can see right now Jones is absolutely tearing off into the distance, and it is a late game for P3, but a well-deserved one as he heads on through what for him will be his second to last lap as he makes his way into turn number 1 once more. But meanwhile, we look back here to the battle for P3 in the GT3 Gold class, where we now have 3 belligerents at the front of the group. That is Russell Fowler. Behind him in the middle, that is Bikica, and then we do have Ole Martin Muir in P5. The 2 team slow-mo drivers here stepping on one another's toes. They've got to decide who's battling with whom as they make their way into turn 16. Down the barrel they go, and Bikica lets Muir go. I think they've decided that Muir's the driver to try and take P3 in class come the end of this race as they swap the places round, and now the 337 Ferrari looks to go hunting one last time as they make the way onwards towards turn number 1. This may be their final lap. We'll give you confirmation as soon as we can, as we hear that Mark Sykes has had to be towed to the pits due to an incident. We can't quite get the replay on that now, given the lateness in the race. But as the racing carries on here, we look to Rafael DeSantis, who right now leading in the LMDH Gold class with 30 seconds to go. That will mean there will be one more lap after this, but he finds himself in a plethora of traffic there of GT3s that stay on the inside. DeSantis on the racing line on the outside there, as that is Stench Monterey battling with Ben Bennyworth. But DeSantis holds on through, and Gaz Williams here closed it up. He saved it all to last moment. They will have one more lap to go. They will turn what is a 35th lap under race conditions. It's DeSantis versus Gaz Williams, and who will come out on top come the end of the hour as they make their way through turns 1 and 2. It also means Russell Fowler will be one more lap in it for him to try and hold on to P3 in the GT3 Gold class. But as we see our 2 LMDH and overall leaders here making their way through the loop, I think DeSantis may be able to hold this, albeit it all comes down to when exactly does he hit the GT3 traffic and whether it holds him at bay. Well, right now, if we look to the circuit map in the top right corner of your screen, he's not got too much GT3 traffic to manage. He's got a couple of LMP2s ahead of him who are battling for the win in the class, and it's Nigel Stock here, the privateer, who's got Kevin Stringer only 8 tenths behind as they make the way on through turn 7 and 8 and arc towards 9. And well, for Stock, he'll be hoping that the way the MDH is closed up, they'll keep it safe from Stringer. But meanwhile, Matthew Yonland here trying to hold off what is Jamie Dory as well. So there are a lot of battles unresolved here on this final lap. And as we see here, the Team Slower Black driver going around the outside of where Stefan Vessels. Well, Dory's going to look to the outside into the braking zone for Village. Yonland holds the inside there as they make the way off the brakes and bring themselves into the loop. Yonland defends the inside. He's going to go deep here as he gets the job done. But as he heads on out of the corner, meanwhile, we look back up to the battle for the lead of the GT3, the LMDH, we should say, Gold class here. And DeSantis, well, he's got the LMP2s coming into the last couple of corners. I think he'll feel safe. He's got a 1.2 second gap on Gaz Williams, albeit as they make the way on down. Well, DeSantis here, he's going to finish behind the LMP2s, which means for Nigel Stock, he's going to have one more lap to do as they make the way on through the final few corners. And Rafael DeSantis, he's held off the charge. He's made the strategy work, and he crosses the line, your winner in the Silverstone feature race today ahead of Gaz Williams P2, and then it will shortly be Craig Jones who comes on through to make it P3 in the LMDH Gold class. Meanwhile, we've got more drivers coming on through, including your winner in the GT3 Bronze class. He'll come on home P24 overall. It's Jordan Benoit who makes it 2 out of 2 today as he crosses the line there in dominant fashion. 7 seconds clear of his next rival of Ingar Almklov, who comes on home P2 in class. And then it will be after, as we see there, Craig Jones also coming through P3 in the MDH Gold class. We'll then have what is Elwin Sykes a bit later on, coming to the end of his race. But meanwhile, we've got more drivers to come to the end of their races at the moment as we continue to watch on here, including Tegan Fairclough, although he's away off the finishing at the moment. So instead, we will have Callum Jenkins who crosses the line there in full place in the MDH Silver class. We've got Jamie Dory holding off Magnus Yonland to the line. He found the move on the final lap. We didn't quite catch it on camera. And then we will have after them, will be P8 in the Gold class of the GT3. So Stefan Vessels, who comes across the line ahead of Elwin Sykes, and Elwin Sykes then will come on P3 on the podium for the GT3 Bronze class as the two of them make it across the line in photo formation. And then it will be your GT3 Gold winner. It's Rocket Racing Stars, it's Tegan Fairclough, who crosses the line after battling hard with both Gavin Gardner and Russell Fowler, but he got it done. Gavin Gardner P2 in the class, and as they made the way on through, it will be Russell Fowler, who held off the charge of the Team Slow-Mo pack behind. He comes on home P3. He's on the podium with the GT3 Gold for Performance Link Esports ahead of Magnus Flottenberg there in P4. And then as all our drivers continue to make the way to the end, it will next be Kevin Stringer, who's found the pass at the very end of the race here for the win in the feature. The SCCR Simsports driver brings it on home there, crossing the line just ahead of Nigel Stock, and it's Tom Bingham who crosses the line, your GT3 silver winner, just only temps ahead of what is there, Baz Meacham, and a brilliant battle between the two of them all the way to the finish. Well, I think that's all the drivers accounted for in terms of finishing the race, ladies and gentlemen. But I think it would be impolite of us to go away without taking a look back at how Kevin Stringer and Nigel Stock settled their differences, and Stringer got the win on the final lap. So this was in the battle in the LMP2 class, and as we can see here, as they made their way down the back straight and up towards turn 15. Stock defended to the inside. Stringer tried to go round the outside, couldn't find it, so he went for the cutback instead. Got a brilliant run off the corner. Stock defended to the inside. Stringer decided, right, I'm going all in on the brakes. I'm going to go outside to inside. Gets the outside of 16 done. A little slide there for both drivers, but Stringer catching it in time, going into 17 on the inside and getting the move done effectively on the final major corner of the final lap of today's racing. A brilliant move there from Kevin Stringer to get it all said and done, and well, what a battle between them all the way to the finish. But as we look back to our live pictures and look to Tom Bingham here, we had to find his way past Baz Meacham. You could argue that Meacham was denied the right to come back at Bingham initially, given the way the traffic came on through and separated the two, but Baz Meacham then stayed with him all the way, and well, Baz Meacham being promoted to the GT3 Silver class. That promotion, he's definitely shown what he's capable of, but Tom Bingham finding a way to just be one step ahead. But you can imagine the rivalry between the two of them will be absolutely intense. We also did not point out your winner of the LMDH Silver class. We do apologise for that. Paul Williams from Speed 9 Esports bringing home the win there over Jochen Seeger. It was 2 seconds behind, and they were a further 32 seconds clear of Mark Baker at the finish line. And well, Paul Williams again on top form today. It was a difficult sprint race for him, but turned it around in the feature, and that's what his championship campaign has been built on. It's the consistency across the results. But as all our drivers make their way into the pit lane, well, congratulations to all of our drivers. It's now time for us to take you through those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, of course. Well, as we have those results coming on in, we start, of course, with our overall finishing positions, as always. And we can see here, started off with the overall set of results, with Rafael DeSantis taking the overall win in the LMDH and also the LMDH Gold class there by half a second over Gaz Williams at the line. The DRS Esport driver finding a way on strategy to get ahead, and then just playing the tactical nuance all the way to the finish, despite Gaz Williams trying to come back at him for Next Gen Racing Purple. And then Craig Jones a further, what was 25 seconds behind in the end, wrapping up the podium for SCCR Simsports. Benjamin McCluskey at P4 for Next Gen Racing Purple, ahead of Jamie Dory for Next Gen Racing Orange. Two drivers with difficult races, albeit Benjamin McCluskey at one point battling half of P2, P3, but fell down the order, I think, after running after a bit of battery. And Jamie Dory just not having the race he wanted today, albeit pipping at Magna Yonland to P5 at the end. Behind the Team Slow-Mo Black driver in P7 there is your LMDH Silver winner of Paul Williams for Speed 9 Esports. And it's a Speed 9 Esports lockout on the podium for the LMDH Silver class, with Jochen Seeger at P2 and Mark Baker P3. We then have Kevin Stringer completing your overall top 10 for SCCR Simsports, your LMP2 winner on the final major corner of the final lap of today, ahead of Nigel Stock. And then it is Mark Sykes. So we now focus on our podium finishes for each of the classes. Of course, we moved outside the top 10 overall. Mark Sykes P13 there for Next Gen Racing Orange, third place in the LMP2 class, just behind Callum Jenkins. We then come to your GT3s, and your GT3 overall winner in P14 overall, Dean Fairclough there for Rocket Racing Stars, ahead of Gavin Garner and Russell Fowler to make up your GT3 Gold podium. And then Tom Bingham, P18 there to become your GT3 Silver winner for Performance Link Esports, ahead of what was Baz Meacham there, only by tenths of a second at the line. The privateer missing out on a win, but still plenty to take from today. Plenty of positives and also areas for improvement, as indeed he'll always look to improve no matter what. Then we can see Espresso Rien P22 to complete the GT3 Silver podium for Team Slow-Mo Leftovers in a good run since his switch from gold to silver. And then we come to our GT3 Bronze winner there, P24 overall, Jordan Baywa, the privateer there, in a brilliant run to P24 ahead of Ingar Almclough, P26 overall for second place of the GT3 bronze class for Team Slow-Mo leftovers. And then coming all the way down to the end of our standings there, Elwyn Sykes, third place on the GT3 bronze podium, P29 overall for Racing Team Astra. Behind his teammate Stefan Vessels there, the GT3 Gold driver in P28 overall. But brilliant racing from all the drivers up and down the field. And now we come on to the individual class finishing positions. And we start off with the LMDH Gold drivers, of course. And we can see here Rafael DeSantis taking that win by half a second in the end over Gaz Williams. And well, the sizable gap between themselves and P3 goes to show how they seem to be just one step ahead of the curve today when it came to the feet race and pace overall here at Silverstone. Unfortunately for Craig Jones, it wasn't a win, but fortunately for him, he'll take home a P3. And the SCCR Sim Sports driver will be absolutely pleased with that. There's no question about it. With a late move on Benjamin McCluskey. And then Jamie Dory P5 there ahead of Magna Yonland and Chris Daines for that early retirement, unfortunately, after the off at turn number 7 at the start of the race. Now we come up to the LMDH Silver class, and we can see here in the Silvers, Paul Williams taking the win by 2 seconds at the end for Speed9 Esports, ahead of teammates Jochen Seeger and Mark Baker at Speed9 Esports lockout, with Callum Jenkins finishing 2 laps down come the finish. And then we come to the LMP2 class, and well, here's the fine margin. Kevin Stringer taking the win by just under 2 tenths at the finish line for SCCR Sim Sports, ahead of the privateer Nigel Stock, with Mark Sykes 3 laps down in P3 for Next Gen Racing Orange. And as we come on to the GT3 classes, starting with the GT3 Golds, we can see it is Dean Fairclaw there for Rocket Racing Stars, taking the win in the end by 2.6 seconds over Gavin Gardner. The Rhino Motorsport driver giving it everything to win today, but still I think he'll feel as though he is a winner with that P2 all the same. And then Russell Fowler digging in there for Performance Link Esports to bring home P3 in a Mercedes that didn't quite look comfortable here at this circuit today, but he definitely put it in its comfort zone. Magnus Bekeka there, P4 for Team Slow-Mo leftovers, ahead of Team Slow-Mo's Ole Martin Muirk for P5, and then Eric Benson, Fredrik Stensvold-Dure, Stefan Vessels, Johan Essen and Adam Delmont completing the GT3 Gold standings. And as we come to the GT3 Silvers, we can see here that Tom Bingham taking the win by 6 tenths in the end for Performance Link Esports over the privateer of Baz Meacham, with Team Slow-Mo leftovers Espresso Rien completing the podium, albeit finishing technically 1 lap down, because he didn't complete as many laps as the lead runners. Albeit still a P3 for Rien, and he'll be very pleased with that, ahead of Ben Bennyworth, P4 the privateer, and then Ollie Wayne, Stefan Albanese, Paul Scott and Mark Arrowsmith completing the GT3 Silver stands, albeit Arrowsmith for that unfortunate early retirement. And as we come on to the GT3 Bronze class, last but not least, we can see Jordan Baywa in the end taking the win, the privateer, by 7 seconds over Ingar Almclough. The Team Slow-Mo leftovers drive digging in for another P2, a good result for him, ahead of Elwyn Sykes from Racing Team Astra, and then Daniel Stimon, unfortunately not able and to bring it on home today due to technical issues with the car, as we're to understand it, in fact not making it to the grid. But a fantastic race from all of our drivers from start to finish, ladies and gentlemen, and well, with that only now leaves us with the post-round interviews with our selected drivers. They'll be coming up shortly. We'll be back in approximately 10 minutes time for those interviews, but until then, do let us know in the chats what was your favourite moment of today, and we're back soon, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss the interviews. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for us to kick off our post-round interviews. Now tonight we have one driver from every class on the field. You can imagine in terms of car classes here, where we started off by talking to our LMDH silver driver from Speed 9 Esports of Paul Williams in the number 7 car, notching up a second place and a first place across the sprint and the feature. Where we come on to our LMP2 driver of Nigel Stock in the 30 privateer machine, and while winning the sprint, couldn't quite make it 2 out of 2 in the feature, but came very close until the final corner of the final lap. We'll then be hearing from our LMDH Gold driver and double winner from DRS Esports of Rafael DeSantis in the 71, before we then come on to our final interview today, and that's our GT3 silver driver performing Esports' Tom Bingham, who in the 24 Porsche was able to make it a second in the sprint and a win in the feature. But we start off, of course, with none other than Paul Williams, and as he does join me in the interview room now, Paul, it looked tough out there from start to finish. It looked as though it was always going to be tricky given how cold it is on the circuit, but at the same time, you made it work. A second place in the sprint and a win in the feature. A very solid night for yourself today. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, we may have the same technical issue we were having with Chris Daines the other day, so I think we're just going to tweak something slightly here. Paul, can you hear me?
Hey Paul, can you hear me now?
Yep, you're coming through loud and clear.
Yeah, thanks for having me tonight. It's really great. So, yeah, it was a good evening, but in a way I was lucky. I got the second race by basically taking it easy and letting my tires survive. I think some of the others had problems with tires wearing out. LMDH, if you lock up a bit, it really doesn't like it. So I kept my tires safe, took it easy, and it was good.
Calm and collected, like that. And to be fair, that has defined your season so far. You have been, as I like to refer to you, as Mr. Consistent in the LMDH Silver class. And we're talking a little bit about the Silverstone circuit, our highest downforce and highest speed circuit so far on the calendar. It looks as though you, much like many of the LMDH drivers, were enjoying the car out there.
Yeah, it does feel really good around that circuit. I think it drives for me better than the LMP2 did, which I drove a couple of seasons ago. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It just feels nice. It flows nicely. You can hold things like you can hold fourth through some of the corners. Don't have to shift down. So it really feels good, and it's got a lot of downforce. Great car.
Well, with a great car comes onto a great qualifying lap, and in qualifying we saw you battling for pole position, albeit in the end found yourself qualifying P3 behind your teammate Jochen Seeger, and Callum Jenkins seemed to run away with things in qualifying. Could you quite find the lap you wanted, or was there a little bit left on the table?
I made a serious mistake at the beginning. I decided to go out to the back of the group and create myself some space, and then I let an LMP2 pass me by mistake, and then I was stuck behind them. So I really struggled to put a lap together. And then when I finally had a chance, I was pushing too hard and got an off track. So yeah, it wasn't my best qualifying. I think it's a lesson learned in watching carefully where you are on track, and that's the secret to a good quali lap.
Oh, indeed. But how you turned it out around in the sprint, of course, bringing home what was a P2 in class in the end, albeit Callum Jenkins seemed to be a little bit too far away in the end. Yourself finishing 5 seconds behind the runaway privateer, but you gave him a good run for his money.
Yeah, it was a good battle. I think it was quite a frantic race. There was lots of in and out of the GT3s, and when you're trying to battle somebody and you have to deal with traffic at the same time, it can get a bit fraught. Unfortunately, I wiped out my own teammate at one point as well, and we clipped each other, and he got the worst of that. But apart from that, it was good battles, and I quite enjoyed it.
That's unfortunate with regards to the contact with your teammate, but still pushing on through from start to finish. And as we made our way deeper into the racing this evening, going into what was the feature race, a good run from yourself from the feature from the start, getting into the lead of the pack and never looking back.
I was actually quite far back after the first while. I started obviously relatively far back, but then I just sort of kept my pace, and slowly as people had to pit, etc. I pitted well, pitted fast, got through, and others struggled with the tires, and I managed to find the lead, and that was great.
And speaking about working the tyres, we did hear a little bit early on today from some of our drivers in the LMDH class about the challenges of conserving the battery in the BMW V8, but also just talking about the tyres as well. It's very cold out there, but it looks like you're struggling for tyre temperature, and when you find it, you don't really want to push it too much because otherwise the tyre will just degrade.
Yeah, I've learned a lot of the last weeks about how to manage this car's tires, and you're completely right. It's particularly tricky in the first few laps. You don't have temperature, and up to lap 3, even into the 4th lap, you've got to be really careful. And then, but once it starts gripping, then the temptation is to really let rip, and that's where you can make a mistake and start to burn the tires out, because you can both wear them out, but also if you're braking too hard into corners, etc., you actually start to overheat them, and then all your grip is gone. So yeah, it's tricky, and you've got to think a bit when you drive, and unfortunately sometimes I forget to think, and then it doesn't go so well.
And just coming from tyres to the battery, how was it in terms of managing that hybrid battery, given the lack of heavy braking zones at Silverstone?
I actually find you can get quite a benefit with the hybrid system if you are in traffic and you decide to just ride the brake very lightly while you're behind somebody else. That gives you quite a bit of battery in the in that time when you can't actually make pace through the traffic. And then once you're out of the traffic, you've got quite a bit of state of charge to work with. So yeah, if you use that technique, it does help quite a bit to enable you to get past stuff, but also to have a higher charge than you would have if you just gave it beans.
Well, that makes sense, and well, with the charge being so critical, and we saw a number of drivers really falling off towards the end in the LMDH Gold class with them having no charge left in the car. But you seem to manage it quite nicely, and well, managing races has been your forte this season, it must be said. You go into the next round, continue to lead in the LMDH Silver class, and we head to Road America. How are you feeling for the Wisconsin State Circuit?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite tracks. I love it there. I think it's great for multi-class racing as well. There's some good straights. You've got the long carousel turn. It's a great track, and I really enjoyed looking forward to it.
And given the fact it's our first endurance round of the season, we go from having the 20-minute and the 60-minute race to a single 2-hour race. Are you up for the challenge?
Yeah, definitely. I think the whole thing there is going to be about tires again, especially in a 2-hour race. So yeah, we have to be careful about that and watch out for the tire changes and make sure keep them nice and cool. So yeah, again, I think challenge of consistency and not burning your tires out. Let's see how it goes.
Well, we look forward to seeing how you get on in the challenge next week. But just before we let you go, Paul, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
I think just my 2 teammates. We really enjoy driving this car together. It's great to have the Bentley livery. We enjoy that. I'm just sorry I wiped Mark out in the first race with a bit of contact. But yeah, shout out to the teammates. We're really enjoying racing together, and it's great to have all 3 of us in silver. So thanks, chaps.
I'm sure they'll appreciate the shout out, and of course a special moment for you all. The first time that Speed 9 Esports has been able to pick up a triple podium in the feature race of the season.
Yeah, it was great. We enjoyed that, and it's always nice. And the battle between us is starting to heat up as well. Jochen was nearly catching me at the end of the feature. He had fresh tyres, and I didn't. It was good fun.
Oh, glad to hear it. Loving to see the battle in between yourself and your teammates. Well, with that, Paul, it's been a pleasure as always to have you join us. Thank you for joining me in the interview room. Congratulations on your results today, and we look forward to seeing how you get on in Road America in a week's time.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
All the best. So hearing there from Paul Williams, our LMDH silver driver in the Speed 9 Esports machine, the number 7 car. And we should clarify, by the way, we apologise for the small mistake with regards to his finishing position listed in the sprint. It was overall P9, class P3, not P2 in class. In fact, what was in the end, the P2 went to Callum Jenkins, and it was Jochen Seeger who took the win when all was said and done. But the feature result was correct there. But interesting dynamic amongst the teammates, and well, Paul Williams really reflecting on that fact that being the driver to manage the car as consistently as possible, manage the tyres, manage the battery, and what was quite intriguing, they're really talking about needing to manage the tyres first and foremost in the feature race and being conscious of them from start to finish, and then the battery not as much of a concern. And well, of course, a lot of car management will need to go into Road America. I think our Speed 9 Esports driver could definitely be flying high stateside with regards to the way he's approaching the races, but with the close rivalry of Callum Jenkins, the privateer, plus also his teammates in the class of both Jochen Seeger and Mark Baker, it's definitely going to be open to who's going to be coming home with the big result come the end of the 2 hours. There's no question about it. But having spoken to our LMDH Silver driver, we now come on to our next driver for interview, and that is none other than Nigel Stock, our LMP2 driver who couldn't quite make it 2 out of 2, but he came close all the way through. And as we do get ready to interview him, it'll be interesting to hear his perspective, not just with regards to what was is winning the sprint, but also the potential heartbreak right at the end of the feature race. And well, he'll be joining us very shortly indeed. In fact, I think he will be joining us now. And as he joins us in the interview room, Nigel, it was almost a double win today. Almost by a single corner on the final lap of the final race of the day. You couldn't quite make it 2 out of 2, but what a thriller to end the day. Do you feel heartbroken, or do you feel happy with how it went to line between yourself and Kevin Stringer?
Yeah, definitely heartbroken.
Oh dear, I can feel the heartbreak from here, to be honest. But let's talk about something a little bit more positive before we come on to that. Pace today, absolutely brilliant. And in qualifying, well, in the end, it was only 400ths that separated yourself from your rivals, but you managed to put it right up there on the grid.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to get a pole because, I mean, Kevin's been hogging them a bit, so I thought it was about time someone else got one. So I was glad I finally got one. But yeah, I knew it was going to be a difficult race when I saw those times. But the day, yeah, it's quite difficult with these cars, so that's always a problem.
Oh, indeed. And speaking of the qualifying lap, of course, trying to find the space out in the circuit, and a very cold circuit at that as well. Did that change your approach to qualifying, given the amount of cloud we had, and also only an ambient temperature of 18 degrees?
Yeah, it does a bit. I mean, it's difficult to find space because, like, you feel like you're getting somewhere, and then one of the BMWs comes around and wants to overtake, or you they would make a mistake, go wide because it's easy to get one exit, so you have to try and be careful. You have to be quick, but sort of try and keep it inbound, sort of in the lines. And yeah, it's not the easiest to do here.
Well, you managed to put it on pole in the end by a small, regardless of whether it's a thousandth, a tenth, or a second, pole's pole. And then going into the first race of the day, the sprint, a good start from yourself, but it did look as though it was quite a slow start from everybody going through the final couple of corners.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just waited until it went green, and I just took off, and then I don't know what happened behind, but I saw Kevin go into the wall, so I was like, oh dear, that's not a good start for him. But I just tried to manage the gap and try to get away from Mark, but I just couldn't get away from him for quite a while. So, but I was hoping that the dirty air would sort of manage to keep me in front, which I think was what was helping really. You never really seemed to get close enough to challenge really.
Indeed, you held Mark Sykes at bay all the way through the 20-minute sprint, and then coming onto the feature race, we saw it was a roller coaster ride from the very outset. You taking positions early on, only to find Kevin Stringer coming on through, but then you took the lead of the class with Stringer having a major incident, and he had to fight his way back through the order. Did you think it was all said and done?
Yes. um, yeah, I decided taking it easy. I don't know. Because when we were pitted, he didn't take tyres and I did. And I don't want to make excuses, but the car just never felt the same afterwards. I don't know if I couldn't get heat in them or what, but I just never seemed to feel comfortable with the car. But I don't want to make excuses. He did brilliantly to bring that gap down. I thought he would never catch up, and he clearly did. So yeah, it's a tough one to take, but at the end of the day, I should have done better maybe. So I have to take it away and learn from it and make sure next time I seal the win and don't let anyone catch me up again. But yeah, I don't know how Mark and Kevin do it in the dirt. Yeah, because when I'm behind them, I just cannot. Like I could get to about half a second, and I can't get any closer because the dirt. Yeah, just so I can't do it. I don't know how they manage it, but they somehow manage to catch up and do it. So I don't know. I have to try and figure out how they do it.
Well, it's something that you'll have to figure out as the season goes on, and one place you may figure out next time out is at Road America. How are you feeling for our first endurance round of the season?
I'm looking forward to it. I've never won an endurance race, so it would be nice to win one in one of these in like in the GT3 or prototype. So it would be nice to win one, but shown by the pace of the other two, it's not going to be easy. But I think the main thing is just doing what I've done tonight. Is just try and keep my nose clean. At the end of the day, I didn't spin or anything tonight, which is what I have done in other the other races. So it's just, I think, just trying to be consistent and keep my nose clean, and hopefully maybe a win will fall into my lap that I lost this evening. Hopefully, like, it will swings and roundabouts, it will turn around in my favour, sort of thing.
Well, indeed, it's a long campaign to go, and you never know, you may be on the top step next time out at Road America, but a great set of results all the same. And just before we do let you go, Nigel, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to live on the broadcast this evening?
Oh, you for your great broadcast, and for your birthday the other day, and for Next Gen for doing great leagues again, for Crest Sport for having me, friends and family, anyone that's watching and supports me.
Well, thank you, Nigel, for the birthday wishes. Do appreciate it, and we do appreciate your feedback and thoughts here at Next Gen. And, well, thank you for joining me in the interview room. As always, a brilliant pair of results today. We look forward to seeing how you get on at Road America next time. But thank you for joining me in the interview room.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and see you then. Bye.
All the best. So hearing that from Nigel Stock, our LMP2 driver, who you could hear there a little bit deflated, dejected, and definitely heartbroken, losing out the win on the final corner of the final lap on the feature to try and make it a double at Silverstone. But still, interested to see how Stock really put in the lap together in qualifying, albeit despite the struggles in the qualifying session with the risk of off tracks or not being able to get the space on circuit to put in the optimum lap. He found it, of course, only by 8 thousandths, but 8 thousandths or 1 thousandth. It's winning is winning, and in the end, bringing on home that pole lap, setting up nicely for going into the sprint race, bringing on home the win there, and, well, just not quite able to deliver the final step in the feature. But still, he's looking to bring home his first endurance win, and perhaps he'll get that at Road America, given the fact the closest of the pace across the class between himself, Sykes and Stringer. It goes to show that it all comes down to consistency and not putting a foot wrong. That will be the delta between them. But as we now come on to our third interview of today, we'll be going from our LMP2 class back to our LMDHs, but instead this time speaking to Rafael DeSantis. And, well, for DeSantis, it has been a day to remember, to carry on from where he left off last time out. And as we do wait for him to be available and ready to go, I think he may be available very shortly. We are just waiting for confirmation of that. It'll be interesting to hear his thoughts on what seemed to be today a day where he was unstoppable, albeit had to fight incredibly hard in both races to be able to bring home the results. There's no doubt about it. And in fact, as he does seem to be ready now, he will be joining us. And as Rafael DeSantis joins me in the interview room, Rafael, another pair of double wins to follow on from last week at the Hockenheim Ring. You're absolutely on fire with the results, but today at Silverstone, it wasn't easy. You had to battle incredibly hard in both races and really run the car to the limit. You must be absolutely pleased with the outcome.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was a pretty satisfying result, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it was really hard because I came in with basically no practice. I started practicing like a half an hour before the race. And yeah, I mean, I just like Silverstone. It's one of my favorite tracks. And yeah, I mean, you can take, because I used to drive LMP2s, so you can take a lot of experience from LMP2s and put it into this car because they're not that much different. So that's why it was a bit easy for me to adapt to it.
Well, you did adapt very quickly and you learned it on the fly fast as well with the lack of practice. And talking about qualifying looked very difficult for everybody in an LMDH car. We saw a huge amount of weaving for the first couple of warm-up laps, if you will. How cold was it out there and how difficult was it to get tire and brake temperature?
It was really difficult because I remember, well, I was used to Daytona and Hockenheim. It took about 1 lap to warm up the tires. But surprisingly on this track, I was expecting it to be a bit less. So 1 lap should have been fine because it's a longer lap. But surprisingly, it took at least 2 laps or maybe even 3 to warm up the tires properly for max pace. So that's why there was a lot of people weaving in the LMDHs. So yeah, I mean, it paid off in the end. I think I did like 5 out laps.
Oh, most definitely, and in the end it paid off with a pole lap that was 0.2 faster than Chris Daines, who put the bar high enough as is, and then a 42.697 really settling the case. Going into the sprint race that followed them, we did see early on quite the battle between yourself and Chris Daines, and also Benjamin McCluskey staying very close. It was side by side for corner after corner. You must have been absolutely on edge in the cockpit.
Yeah, it was an amazing race. I love these battles, especially on this track. It's such a good track for racing with these cars. Even more than the LMP2s, because I don't know for what reason, but there's a bit less dirty air, I feel like, with these cars. So it's really good for racing here. Definitely much better than Hockenheim, especially with the lapped cars as well. But yeah, I love battling with people that they know what they're. You can trust them, so yeah, it's really nice to battle with them.
Oh, it definitely looks as though you're enjoying it, but you come on to lap cars, and we did see quite a few moments, such as running to turn 3 at Village Corner, also running through Maggots into Beckett, so that's the run from turn 10 through to 13, where you're caught up to GT3s, not just yourself, but also drivers in the class around you, and the struggle, it would seem, of carrying the speed through the corners, going off racing line, and showing awareness of both them and who you're battling with. Just take us through that multitasking process, because in the feature you have a bit more time given it's a longer race, but in the sprint you've got to react so quickly given the fact you haven't got long to race.
Yeah, in the sprint you have to be very fast with your decisions because you can't be losing too much time since the race is very short. And yeah, I was just honestly not even pushing as much as I usually would because, like I said, I didn't really practice much, so I wasn't that confident with the car, especially the first laps when the tires were cold. But once we cut the traffic, it was alright. But yeah, I mean, at that point I was a bit further ahead. I don't know what happened to Daines. He suddenly lost like 3 or 4 seconds with a lap car, so I was not trying to push it too hard because I had a comfortable lead, so yeah, I didn't want to throw it away.
We definitely took a sensible approach in the sprint, so coming home with the win there. And then going into the feature, of course, starting from the back of the LMDH Gold pack, but finding your way through quite quickly, but then in a back and forth for some time with the next-gen Racing Purple driver, if my memory serves me correctly, of Benjamin McCluskey, and chasing Gaz Williams down.
Yeah. I basically just abused the traffic to gain 3 places very quickly, and I thought I was gonna get away with it. But Gaz was really fast, so we cleared all the lapped cars right there, and he was just in my draft, and I couldn't get rid of him. So I set a little bit back, was recharging my boost, my saving some fuel. And yeah, that in the end worked out well because I was able to overtake him in the pits by putting less fuel in. So yeah, that definitely worked out. I didn't expect to be behind Benji as well because there was some lap traffic that made me lose some time, and he managed to squeeze in. So that's why I was trying to get past him, but yeah, in the end it worked out, and yeah.
Oh, indeed, and we've just seen on the pictures in the background of the broadcast that moment where you got caught up behind Ollie Wayne, the GT3 silver Mercedes, and McCluskey was able to pick his way through coming out of Chapel. But with that, of course, the play on the strategy, we saw you as you jumped ahead of Williams coming out of the pit lane. Just taking us through the final couple of laps, it looks as though you'd opened up enough of a gap, and then the gap really started to come down. Were you having to try and balance the gap, or was it just the traffic costing you time? What led to it coming back together?
I was running out of fuel. So I noticed like 3 laps to go. Oh, I'm not gonna make it. So I had to really save a lot of fuel. I think I saved like a entire lap of fuel. But I feel like Gaz also had the same issue because he was not gaining too much time on me. And yeah, I was just taking it really slow with the lap cars, trying to save as much fuel as possible. And yeah, I didn't want to throw it away because the tires were really they were really bad at the end. I didn't look what percentage I had, but already after the pit stop, I looked and I had 36% in the front left. So they were definitely not in a good condition, and yeah, it was a bit sketchy to drive at the end, but it worked.
Well, indeed, despite the changes of the tyre compound, you managed to keep it all the way to the end to win it and make it a double victory today, and now 4 wins on the bounce. Looking ahead to next time then, of course, we've had sprint and feature race rounds all the way through so far. It's our first endurance round in the state of Wisconsin of the US at Road America. How are you feeling for the classic circuit?
I mean, considering what happened last season, I'm a bit scared of the start, but yeah, it should be good. I haven't tried that track with any prototypes yet, so I'm gonna have to practice a little bit. With GT3s I have obviously, but that's a complete different story. So yeah, I'll have to practice that one a little bit more, and we'll see. I'm honestly, I have no idea how it's gonna go because it's not a track that I'm very familiar with. So yeah, we'll have to see.
It definitely will be interested to see how you get on in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, Raphael, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah, I wanted to shout out to my friends in the 1 hour of racing Forza Horizon League that they were watching my race. And yeah, thank you for watching. And yeah.
I'm sure they will appreciate the shout out. But with that, Raphael, it's been a pleasure as always to have you in the interview room. Congratulations on your double victory today in a brilliant pair of drives. And we look forward to seeing how you get on in Road America in a week's time.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a nice evening. So here and there from Rafael DeSantis, our LMDH Gold driver from DRS Esport, bringing on home 2 wins out of 2 after an absolutely phenomenal pole lap that put him 2 tenths clear right at the end of the qualifying session, albeit in his own words there, not having too much time to practice, so then having to learn and really get himself acclimatised to the car and the circuit being moulded together in the qualifying session, but finding that time right at last moment, and since that point, not really looking back, whether it's in the sprint race after the brilliant 2-wide battle for an extended period of time with Chris Daines, or alternatively the fight in the feature of Benjamin McCluskey and Gaz Williams, beating McCluskey in the end based on overtaking on the circuit, beating Gaz Williams through strategy, and never quite looking too threatened until the very end when fuel was critical, but he found a way to save, and with everybody else right on the threshold of fuel saving as well, it was going to come the way of DeSantis come the checker flag, and definitely now a force to be reckoned with in the LMDH Gold class if we didn't already realise that already. But now we come on to our final interview of today, and that is Tom Bingham, the GT3 Silver driver from Performance Link Esports. And well, what an evening Tom has had with regards to the racing in the Porsche 911. And to dig in deep over the course of the feature and the sprint to bring home the 2nd and 1st place. But as we do get ready for him to join us in the interview room, it'll be interesting to hear his perspective on the Porsche's performance versus the cars around, and also that rivalry that seems to be growing with Baz Meacham, who definitely is looking strong in the silver class, but Meacham finding a way to respond in kind. But as we bring him into the interview room now, Tom, 2 great results on the table today, a 2nd place in the sprint and a win in the feature, despite newcomer to the class of Baz Meacham pushing you every step of the way in the feature. You must be firstly absolutely shattered, but at the same time absolutely proud of what you achieved here today.
Yeah, it was an absolutely fantastic set of races. Just got to take my hat off to Baz Meacham, because he had me at sort of half a second for a good 10 laps or so, I think it was. So really putting the pressure on me, and he's a fast driver. Fair play to him.
Oh, I'm sure he'll appreciate the shout out from it yourself. And coming on to really how it started today, of course, Silverstone in cloudy conditions, relatively cold circuit, but in qualifying, it didn't look as though you were hesitating too much to start putting the laps in. The car was coming to you quite naturally, it would seem.
Yeah, it's one nice thing with Silverstone is I've driven it so many times that I was able to sort of adapt fairly quickly. The track conditions felt a little bit slippy to start with, honestly, but after a couple of laps, it definitely rubbed it in a little bit, and the tyres came up to temp, and then then yeah, the Porsche on this setup from iRacing's it's decent. It's got a good bit of grip if you drive it slightly aggressively.
Well, in the end, qualifying P2 on the grid, missing out on pole to Stefan Albanese by a 10th in the end. But we've seen that the Audi R8 does seem to be very strong in the GT3 class here at Silverstone. Is that what you expected the Delta to be at the end, or was there a bit more lap time out there, do you feel?
Yeah, there was definitely some more time left on the table. I did a sub 2 minute, I think, in practice, which was putting it together for my ability anyway, and I felt like it stung a little bit to lose by a 10th, definitely. But yeah, Stefan's a really fast driver, and there's no denying that. So I know he's had a bad run of a couple of rounds, but hopefully he and I and Baz and some of the other guys can battle out maybe in the next round.
Oh, most definitely. And coming on to the sprint race, we saw with the rolling start, having the GT3 start in between turns 16 through to 18, it looked a very tricky start to manage, and everybody trying to fight their way into the final corner, club corner, from the outset.
Yeah, it's one of the worst starting procedures other than Monza, I think, on iRacing, well, on any track in general, really. It's super narrow. It's barely 2-car width. And the sausage curbs are absolute killers. So if you hit those, you're gonna have a big accident. So I got lucky avoiding the incident in front of me, but unfortunately my teammate Russ got taken out. But it's just one of those things. You've got to be careful and just be a bit patient. And at least we were able to get past the incident anyway.
Oh, indeed. And then progressing along, it did look as though Albanese was just a little bit faster over the duration of the race, but you kept him close throughout. And also on top of that, you made sure to break away from the rest of your competitors, with Ben Bennyworth rounding off the podium a bit further back.
Yeah, I knew that I had to try and make the moves quickly. The degradation on the tyres on the Porsche were quite bad, so once the tyres had warmed up, you had really a good set of laps where you could attack quite hard. And then it was just sort of managing the understeer that was coming for when the tires were wearing off quite badly. But it was it was good, really. I managed to manage the tire wear enough and get the result that I was after.
Well, that's one result you're after. And then going into the feature, we saw you step it up a notch from the outset there. Looked as though it was going to be quite tight with regards to battling your way in between the GT3 Gold drivers as well as your own class. Just take us through your approach to this race in terms of the strategy, because it looked as though you really played for track position throughout.
Yeah, I wanted to use the good grip that was available and try and make the moves quickly. I think I did sort of one send on Benny quite early, but I knew that if I didn't get past and keep with the front runners, I wouldn't have a chance to sort of reel them in. Strategy wise, I find myself over the longer races I can put consistent laps in. That's one nice thing that I do have in my ability. So I knew that he would. I knew the front runners would eventually sort of come back to me as long as I focused on putting the lap times in and just avoiding the LMPs and the gold drivers and everybody else out there.
Oh, indeed. And speaking of avoiding the other classes and dealing with that traffic coming on through, of course, we talked earlier to some of our LMDH and LMP2 drivers about their perspective, but being in the slower class, quote-unquote, of the GT3s, how is it from your perspective, given that Silverstone is such a wide circuit and plenty of times today we saw 2, 3, 4 wide, when you've got 2 GT3s battling, an LMP2 trying to come through, and an LMDH trying to come through?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky mix, really. The LMDHs and the LMP2s are just so unbelievably fast compared to the GT3s that when they're approaching at pace, they assume that they can just send it down the inside and they think they have right of way because they have a faster vehicle. I've driven LMP2 and everything as well, and I understand exactly what it feels like. You're driving a spaceship, basically, and you think you can just make all these different moves, but I had an incident where I think it was turn 3, one of the tightest corners on the whole circuit, and I was in the middle of 2 LMPs, so it was a bit crazy from that perspective. But they're running their own race. I totally get that, but it's just one of those things. And if you mix two fast classes and then GT3s together, you're going to have fireworks at some point.
Well, indeed, and I do think we did catch that on the broadcast this evening where you found yourself being reverse moseyed by the Proto class cars. But coming on to where that traffic may have aided you a little bit as we look at the growing battle between yourself and what was Baz Meacham towards the end of the feature race after the pit stop. Came out close behind, closing him down quite quickly, and then, well, you made the move, and it seems though his counter-attack was blunted a little bit by some of the LMDH traffic working to your advantage.
Yeah, there was a when I first closed him up. Actually, there was an incident where we were going into, I think it was Cops, and there was an LMP that went down the inside, ruined his line, and I did have the run, and I did actually dab the brake because I thought it's not really fair for me to just take it off of him because an LMP has forced him offline. You know, I know a lot of people would just take the position regardless, but as it got a bit further into the race and his tyres had bedded in properly and you know, I realised he was bloody fast. I had to then think about taking every opportunity I could because my tyres were just going off. So, you know, I wanted to try and win it on ability as opposed to just win it from the traffic. But you know, I had plenty of instances where the traffic didn't work out for me. So it was just a roll of the dice tonight.
Well, indeed, and having him run so close behind you, as you said right at the start of this interview, within half a second for practically the remainder of the race, you couldn't put a single mistake in, could you?
No, and when my tyres were going off, it wasn't a nice feeling. So, you know, the BMW looks fairly menacing from when it's in your rearview mirror. So he drove a fantastic race. He really did. So I'm looking forward to racing him in the other rounds and everything. So, but yeah, he was very consistent. I mean, to be able to stay within that sort of gap with me, and I was pushing as hard as the tyres would allow. But hats off to him. He did a really fantastic job. So. We'll see how it goes in the next round.
Well, indeed, and speaking of the next round, Road America's on the cards in the state of Wisconsin as of next week, and it's our first endurance round as well. How are you feeling for the 2-hour showdown in the US?
Yeah, no, it should be good. Road America's going to be a scary track with all the LMPs. It's going to be a really scary track, so there's not a massive amount of runoff. You know, there's a lot of places where you can have a very bad race-ending incident, but yeah, no, I like Road America. It should be good, and I've done plenty of endurance racing, so you know, 2-3 hour stints aren't anything that I'm not comfortable with. If anything, they'll play into my strategy normally of put the consistency in and let everything else come back to you. So just fingers crossed the tyres last on the Porsche. That would be nice.
Well, we'll have to wait to see how you get on at Road America, but you already sound most of the way prepared. But just before we do let you go, Tom, is there anybody you'd like to give another thank you to or a shout out to live on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah, just as always, a big shout out to yourself, Paul. Big shout out to all the NXTGEN guys. They seem like a real nice bunch. It's the first season I've done with you guys and been very warmly welcomed, so I appreciate that. I want to give a shout out to all the Performance Link guys that were watching. Also my wife and Baz for the race today, and anybody else that knows me.
Well, Tom, we do appreciate your kind words, and I'm sure all of the individuals you've mentioned will appreciate the shout-out as well. But thank you for joining me in the interview room, as always. Congratulations on the great results today, and we'll see you at Road America in a week's time.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
All the best. So here and there from Tom Bingham, our GT3 Silver Class driver there, the Performance Link Esports driver, who's on his way to leading the championship. There's no question about it. We're second place in the sprint and a win in the feature. In the end, really having to push hard, and we continue to see the pictures of him hassling and trying to hustle after Baz Meacham. And I think we do have another rivalry forming here. Indeed, in the GT3 Silver Class at the moment, it's Bingham who is leading the way with that combination of pace and consistency. Meacham is the newcomer to the class who really is bringing the game from the bronze class that he's been promoted from, and we have Stefan Albanese, who does really seem to be a firecracker in terms of pace, albeit a bit blighted by misfortune over the last couple of rounds. But you imagine with the three of them together and trying to mix some of their peers as well, it is definitely a class which is going only one way, and that is towards a multi-car battle for the championship win round after round. And it'll be interesting to see how that story plays on out, particularly at Wisconsin at Road America next time. But that concludes our post-round interviews with all of our drivers there, then, ladies and gentlemen. And just to give you a quick recap, you've just heard from Tom Bingham, our GT3 Silver Porsche 911 driver in the 24 car for Performance Link Esports. We previously heard from Rafael DeSantis, who was our third interviewee for the LMDH Gold class in the 71 DRS Esport machine. You also heard secondly from Nigel Stock in the LMP2 Dallara P217 number 30 privateer machine. And we started off, of course, with our LMDH Silver driver from Speed9 Esports in the number 7 car, Paul Williams there. And thank you to them all once again for joining us for an interview this evening. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you want to know more about the Next Gen racing community, then why not check out our official website, link available on the screen there, and that is at www.nextgenracing.co.uk, and of course it's the home of fair and equal sim racing for all, with multiple series, indeed all the statistics and standings of our series available on the website, including the series such as the Proto GT3, which you're currently watching, also the more recent seasons of the NXTCC, and also details of our upcoming series and sessions are available on there. Alternatively, if you don't want to go to our website and you want to go to one of our social media platforms, then why not go to our official Facebook group, available on screen there under the link of facebook.com/groups/NextGen Racing, where you can talk with all the different members of the community, including the admins and also our drivers. But with that, we now turn our attentions, ladies and gentlemen, as we pack up our bags in the United Kingdom and begin to make our way over the Atlantic for Road America. The scene is set. It is the state of Wisconsin on Wednesday, the 8th of February 2023. The race will be 2 hours in length. All of our drivers will be vying to win it, but the question is, who can outlast the test of the Road America circuit and come on home covered in glory as we continue to press on deeper and deeper into this season? We'll find out all that and more in a week's time, but until then, thank you very much for tuning in. If you have enjoyed, why not subscribe to our official YouTube channel, alternatively follow our Facebook, alternatively the Twitch channel. But until then, we've been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.